Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So it takes me a while to get to it, and then I have a compilation I put at the end of this video of Ghislaine Maxwell slathering all over Trump. But it didn't matter what she said, whether she condemned Trump and said he was a part of it and he was abusing young women, or she slathers all over him, talks about what a great guy he is. It doesn't matter either way. Because the only thing that matters is that Trump had a relationship with these two pedophiles for a very long time. And Trump's lawyer tries to minimize the relationship, as does Ghislaine, but you can't, right? And so that's all you need to know. But these MAGA fools, these MAGA DFs, these Trumpers, they just won't see it, no matter what Trump does or what his relationship is, because it's been out there for a while. But if you look at this in any way, by any definition, Trump had a relationship with both these people, Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, that went on for 20 years. And, he has those same proclivities, those same tendencies towards younger women. And, which he's admitted to and bragged about. And so it just condemns him. Like, it's bad. Like, it's bad for MAGA people. Like, they just won't look at it because they can't see it. It's like you don't look at something that is going to reveal the truth, right? Like you don't look at the pregnancy test when it's positive, or negative or whatever it is. You don't, people are avoiding it. But let's get into it here. Okay, well, here it is. This speaks for itself.
Promise, we got that breaking news. Good to be with you. I'm Katie Tur. We're following that news out of Washington, D.C., where the Justice Department has just released transcripts and audio from Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche to House lawmakers. Again, there is audio. The audio is coming.
I don't know why the video's like that. I think I watched this yesterday, the beginning of this. I did. So, whatever.
Trying to turn it. Joining us now, MSNBC legal analyst and former assistant Manhattan District Attorney Catherine Christian. New York Times opinion columnist David French is with us as well.
They got David French on the thing.
We'll note the interesting timing in doing both the John Bolton search today and releasing 263 pages of Epstein, of the Ghislaine Maxwell.
Okay, so this is what's called a document dump. And everybody fucking knows it, right? So this goes back to the way that Trump treats the Trumpers. We'll get in that in a moment. But if they were upfront about any of this, if this was a good thing, if this was good for Trump, this Ghislaine Maxwell thing, which he's going to praise him and exonerate him, and we'll get into it. I'll play it all for you. So this is somebody praising Trump, but it's, a pedophile's pimp and a pedophile herself praising, a convicted pedophile, the worst notorious, praising Trump. And we'll get into that too, right? Like how messed up that is. But Trump is dropping this Friday afternoon. So this is what they do. So all the main news people, all the celebrity news people have the weekend off. And people do things on the weekend. The citizens, the viewers, don't watch the news as much on the weekend. So they have weekend staff, diminished weekend staff, and people don't pay attention over the weekend. So they drop news that they don't want covered, and oftentimes they do a big document dump, which is like a lot of info, and they'll just drop it on a Friday. And then by Monday, especially nowadays, a bunch of other shit has happened, right? So, it shows you, first of all, that this is something that they don't want you to see and they want you to not pay attention to. So it's already messed up because this is, about Jeffrey Epstein. And so this is about Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. And they clearly are trying to do anything in their power to separate these two good buddies, to diminish Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And on top of that, they decide to raid John Bolton's house, which Trump would later say he didn't know anything about, which is like ridiculous, on the same day, which is big news. And they're raiding John Bolton's house, according to Fox News, I saw a little clip of that yesterday, where they're raiding his house because he was trafficking intelligence to other countries. So they're accusing him of being a traitor, that he was selling intelligence, which, I mean, as much as he's a scumbag, I don't think he's that much of a scumbag, at least that kind of a scumbag. He's a warmonger and a pro-Israel piece of shit, neocon, but I don't think he's that guy. But Fox News was putting that out there to slander the guy, right? Because he's gone in on Trump. So they take this guy and they say, someone who's an enemy of Trump, and they raid his house, and they show the MAGA people how aggressive they are at going after these people. They show the QBs and those dopes. We're going after deep state. I guess it's like, hey, look, we're going after the deep state. We're cleaning out the swamp. Even though this guy's retired and now he's just a pundit. He doesn't have any future in politics. Like they have a Republican administration. He's out of the loop. And he's not going to get any love for the Democrats. The only love he gets from the Democrats is that he criticizes Trump. So they give the MAGA people something to talk about. All the MAGA Twitter people, all the MAGA Truth Social people, all the MAGA Fox News. They give them something. They feed them something. And then they drop this Ghislaine Maxwell thing at the end of the day, which shows they're guilty. This is a sign of being guilty. All along, they've made him look guiltier and guiltier. Either that's intentional, and they're fucking the guy, and he doesn't even know it, or they're just doing this stuff up, right? And so she starts reading the transcripts, and she does a bad job. But I found audio from Forbes of Ghislaine Maxwell talking about Trump. So let's move to that. But this video is an extension of, they're going after Trump's base, right? They're trying to, all this stuff is to try to keep Trump's base supporting him. That's what all of this stuff is about at this point. And I'll talk about why in a bit. But let's move to the actual audio here. Okay, this is full Ghislaine Maxwell interview. Jeffrey Epstein accomplice grilled by Todd Blanche. I think it's grilled by the DOJ.
But I'm not asking that you think should be asked. I invite you to volunteer. Same thing goes to your lawyers. Just to start a little bit, very briefly, can you talk about when you first met Mr. Epstein? I know that goes back a while. And just very generally talk about your relationship with Mr. Epstein from the time you met him all the way up until his death.
I met Mr. Epstein in 1991. I'd never heard of him or met him before, and no one in my family had ever either. My father never knew him, and I'll explain.
She's kind of lost her British accent a little bit.
Why that is the case.
Where did you meet him?
I had a girlfriend who I'd moved to America briefly I'd moved to America in 1990.
Okay.
Moved, that's a good word. I'd come to visit America in 1990. I had been running my own company up until that time, which was a company called Maxwell's Corporate Gifts. And I had also been working for my father at the time. I had multiple jobs with him. I was, in 1990, I was working with a new company of his, a new newspaper that he was launching called The European. And I was in charge of launching a magazine to go with the European. And I was traveling at that time from England to America because my father was looking to, he'd also bought Macmillan, the publishing house, and he had purchased the New York Daily.
So she's really wealthy. Her father was, there's a movie called, I believe it's Tetris. It's about the video game Tetris. And is it Tetris or is this another one? There was a couple of these movies that sort of documented some of these big technological stuff, but I'm pretty sure it's Tetris. And her dad was competing with trying to get the video game from the guy who would eventually publish it, get the rights from Russia. It was a Russian game. And so there was a couple things I saw. One was about the BlackBerry, one was about Tetris. I think it was the Tetris one. But either way, her dad was involved in one of these types of things. Like he was a character in one of these movies. Famous person, publishing, had lost some money at that time. But this is, was famous, kind of like almost like a Rupert Murdoch type of person.
Yes. And it's true to say that my father always wanted me to come back full time and work for him, but that's a much longer story. I don't think we need to go into it this time.
Yeah, talk about Epstein.
So, but I was always working with him. Well, there was no escaping, as it were, to work for him. So, in 1990, I had come over to New York to help look at some of that. He was having some advertising issues with the New York Daily News, and in fact, I may have met Donald Trump at that time because my father was friendly with him and liked him very much. And I think it should be said that he also very much liked Ivana because she was also from Czechoslovakia, where my dad was from. So I don't remember if I did meet him or not in 1990 with my dad, but I knew that's how I knew about then Mr. Trump.
And this was before you met.
This was before
Mr.
I met Mr. Epstein. Yes.
Okay.
So she knew Trump before she met Epstein. That's the first thing they're establishing here, right? And so the audio is horrible. Now, it's got background noise. There is some cleaned up audio that I'll play for you. Some of this stuff I'll probably play again if I have it. I have some other videos up about this that we'll get to. I just want to go to the raw audio here first. But this is the raw audio. So Forbes got the raw audio and put it up. And in the day of modern day technology, like, you can hear that my audio was clearer. And I got a $90, $50, I don't know, $100 handheld Bluetooth mic that has some, whatever it is. And it's just a Bluetooth with a, dongle sticking in the computer thing, with a little antenna coming up. And my audio is superior to theirs. So this is the U.S. government, and they should have the finest audio equipment, and this should be crystal clear. But they have like a lot of background noise. So they've done a document drop, and they released a large portion of the audio. And she's going to do nothing but praise Trump, which we'll get into because that's significant. And that's still something they don't want you to hear, right? Because there's nothing here that can make Trump look good. Because if you start asking questions about Trump, all the answers that you can possibly think of are bad answers, right? Let's go a little bit further here.
So I was already going backwards and forwards in America, and then in April of 1991, I came to New York.
Right. So the most important stuff is about Trump here. Now, she is asked about Bill Clinton and says, even though Bill Clinton was on the flights with Jeffrey Epstein and went all these places, he never received a massage. And so, she obviously doesn't want to finger anybody. I mean, at least in terms of the... She did do that. I'm not laughing at that because it's, what she did was horrible. But she's clearly wants to keep powerful people on her side. So she is saying she never saw Bill Clinton and engaged in any sexual activity. And she's going to say that about Trump for the obvious reason. So this is where she gets into Trump here.
Edward says that he got Alfredo Rodriguez to mark up the book of all the people who were involved. It includes Alan Dershowitz, for the record, who's marked. I don't remember what it does with Donald Trump. I don't know. You'd have to look. I don't have it. But I believe. So what he did, he marked up, I don't know who, somebody marked up that book of names, and I think all the names of the people that they went for were originally selected between two sources. One was this alleged book of names, and one was also from the telephone logs that were collected from the house in...
All right, so now she's talking about there's a list. And she's saying Donald Trump is on the list, right? There's a book of people.
...on Beach. And just to finish it off, there is a note. I have some papers for you if you wanted them, where Brad Edwards says that he has a list of 25 men that he got money off.
So the list.
So she's now saying that there's these lists.
That everybody, the black book, the list. What you're saying is that your Exhibit 52 from your trial, which is like more of an address book or Rolodex type thing, that Mr. Alfredo Rodriguez, your understanding is that somewhere along the way he went through and kind of...
Okay, so let's just review this thing. This is Todd Blanche, right? So Todd Blanche was Donald Trump's defense attorney in one of these many cases that he had. So he's Donald Trump's personal attorney, and so Donald Trump has attorney-client privileges, right, with this guy. So this guy is a guy who represented Trump in defense-related, issues, and Trump gives him a job at with the attorney general. He's like the vice president. He's the second in command below Pam Bondi, right? He's the assistant attorney general. And so he goes in there representing Trump, right? Ghislaine Maxwell isn't stupid. She comes from an educated, intelligent family. She's obviously not stupid. And so going in there, we already know what this is about, right? He's not going in there to find out dirt on Trump, right? This isn't something that's being run by the Democrats, who are like the Democrats are in control of her fate. And so she's, I don't know why the dogs are barking, but let's get back to it here.
Mark that list to say...
I don't know where that book actually comes from.
Okay.
I don't know what that book is. That book is some type of a compilation, but what it is it's just pieces of paper with type. So if you could have made a list. I could put...
But you're referring to something that's been public for a long... If we're thinking about the same thing, you're talking about you're right, it's like a bunch of different types of paper or whatever. I only have a copy of it, but with big parts of it redacted publicly because
yes.
People's addresses and whatnot.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So perfect. Yes. So you will find...
We're looking at Exhibit 52 now.
Okay, so you're looking at Exhibit 52. So the one they produced, the Southern District of New York actually produced a book for me to see it as evidence, the actual thing it was. And it has marks, it has tabs, it has things, it has names I've never seen. It had like that list of that list was basically the names that they choose to produce at trial. Now,
so again, there's the Epstein list, the famous Epstein list we're talking about. It's not a official list, like I said. Like Epstein, he might have had, whatever he had in terms of blackmail information, because this, whatever blackmail, again, the official story, whatever, him working for Mossad, CIA, whatever, definitely Mossad, and then having blackmail info would be different than a list of people. Like criminals don't have lists, they have information they might use that has value, but they don't have lists. They don't have self-incriminating lists, right?
Rothstein Adler's firm. I also have some documents where Rothstein, his original scheme at Rothstein Adler was to place prostitutes. He had a bar, a dancey bar, where he had girls, and I believe he would use them and put them as fake secretaries in people's offices, and then she might touch him or he might touch her or something, and boom, he got $25,000 for that. And those girls, and I'm not saying that those are the girls that came in Epstein's case necessarily, but
So But again, we're separating the evidence that came in at your trial and what you just talked about with Brad Edwards and Mr. Rodriguez. During the time that you were with Mr. Epstein, and even in the 2000s when you were around less frequently, you never observed or you never saw any sort of list or black book or a list of individuals who linked to certain masseuses or
Absolutely
anything
no.
like that.
Absolutely no.
So, they're trying to dispel this idea of the list, obviously. So, why would he be doing this, right? So, the Trump supporters and the Cubies and all these Trumpers, all the Pizzagate people, all the people who are, really Epstein people, right-wing Trump-supporting Epstein people. And this includes Kash Patel, to some extent Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, and then all these other people, Donald Trump Jr., all these people that were talking about the list, right? That were saying to you, yes, there is a list, and yes, we're going to release it. Saying to these dumb Trumpers, these Cubies, these right-wing hating Jeffrey Epstein people. Not right-wing hating, right-wing people who hated Jeffrey Epstein. And so all those people who were waiting for the list, promised to them by Trump's people, everybody but Trump. Trump was like, I don't know, it's not, this one's could hurt people's careers, and, it's not as important as JFK. I have that whole, at the end of this video, I'll play that again. All the incriminating things about Trump. Trump, inspecting young girls at his pageant, saying, that he hired a young girl who was like 16, 17, and she had no experience, and it was like she was like being around for a crack addict. This stuff, all these clips that I have of Trump talking about young girls, and of course there's the stuff with Trump saying Jeffrey Epstein's a terrific guy, right? But now they're trying to say there's no list. And so they're using Ghislaine Maxwell, who's the least credible person, to back up their story there's no list. And this is a big fuck you to the Trumpers, right? Which is, what this is all about. Let's go further here. I'm going to come back to what I was saying, but...
There is no list. There is no... I'm not aware of any blackmail. I never heard that. I never saw it, and I never imagined it.
So while we're on this topic, just again, I know we're jumping around and we've been going at it for a while, so I apologize. But there's recently been reports about a birthday book that you assembled for Mr. Epstein, I think for his 50th birthday in 2003.
That's true.
What do you know about that?
So, my mum did a birthday book for my father at his
It was very similar to this.
60th. And when Epstein would talk about his 50th, he said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, well, that's a nice thing. So my mum did this book for my dad. And he said, I love that idea. He said, can you help coordinate it? And he organised he called a lot of the people himself. I coordinated the putting together of the book. And in some instances, I called people to ask them to contribute.
What was in the book? Like, what was the ask of the people you called?
It's his 50th birthday. Say anything you want on a piece of paper.
Okay.
I mean, nothing more than that.
Right. I mean, it was an obvious question, but you basically, his folks were invited to send something.
So again, he's trying to dispel this thing, the Wall Street Journal. But they have the book, right? The Wall Street Journal, the book is out there. The book is still there. So this is about Donald Trump's weird entry into it, right? So he's trying to get cover for Donald Trump here.
Celebrate his birthday.
Yes, to say happy birthday with like have a wonderful day or something else. There was no ask, but I wasn't responsible for everybody in that book, and there were people that he would ask himself to contribute.
And do you remember specific names of individuals who did send letters or who did contribute?
It's been so long. I want to tell you that I don't remember. I honestly don't remember.
The article talks about several names, but including the focus of the article, which is on Donald Trump. Do you remember President Trump submitting a letter or a card or a note?
I don't.
She doesn't. See, they have the fucking book. The book is available. I forget who has the book. We talked about this before, but the people, maybe the victims have the book. I'm not sure who has the book. Someone has the book, and they can show that Donald Trump's letter's in there. This whole lawsuit was Wall Street Journal. And so they're giving him cover over the book. So everybody with half a brain would know that we'll get into how she would do this, which was, kissing Trump's ass, right? But Trump is responsible for commuting her sentence, pardoning her, moving her to a less security prison, which has already happened, which they've already rewarded her. She went from a low security prison to a camp, like one of these camp prisons. So she's already been rewarded for what she's done here. And if a pardon is something, I don't know how Trump could get away with it. But if she's going to get a pardon, then it would be through Trump. So her saying, I don't remember, means that nothing, because that's what you say when, it's like taking the fifth. Oh, I don't remember. We know this. Like, everyone knows this. I don't recall. I don't remember. Like, that's what people who are guilty will say when they've done something or they know something that they're not supposed to talk about. Oh, I don't remember that. I don't recall that. And then they're like, well, how can you dispute what's in somebody's memory? You can show them the book and say, hey, here's Donald Trump's letter. But Todd Blanche isn't going to fucking do that because he's Trump's lawyer, right? And so...
Do you think the articles... Well, do you remember seeing that book or any portion of the letters in your discovery in New York?
Yes.
Okay, what do you remember seeing?
I remember there were some portions of that book, but what surprised me, what surprised me was how few there were, because I thought if you had those, where are the rest? There was none of Mr. Trump.
So she's giving, so you're being validated by a pedophile, which we'll get into here. And a pedophile's pimp. So it's not a good look for Trump no matter what, right? But if she incriminates him, that's even worse. So like this is why this is a document dump on Friday late at night with poor audio, with really poor audio, unexplained poor audio.
Discovery.
In my discovery, sorry. President Trump, there was nothing from President Trump.
And do you remember... But separate and apart from your discovery, do you remember one way or the other whether President Trump submitted a letter for his 50th birthday?
I do not remember.
And the article that references the letter...
He totally would, because he was good pals with Jeffrey Epstein. And this is the kind of thing that she was looking for, somebody like Trump. Famous people wishing him a happy birthday. That's what this book was about. And, this was the idea her mother did for her dad. It wasn't for this some kind of low-level interns working for Epstein. It was famous, rich, and powerful people like Trump, and Trump and him were really close then.
Talks about either a picture of a naked woman or something like that. Do you have any recollection of that?
I do not.
So again, this isn't about her saying he wasn't in the book. I know the book. I put together the book. I know the book. I don't remember. I don't recall that. Of course you would fucking recall that. You would recall a picture that Trump drew. You would remember all these famous people and what they did. Because you're putting this together. Of course you'd remember. But she's doing this. She's covering for Trump, right? Like this, it's so fucking obvious. We'll get into the dumb fuck MAGA motherfuckers in a second here.
Wait, no, I don't.
Do you remember? So, what do you remember seeing from your discovery around the book? Like you said, portions of it or some of the pages. What do you remember?
I remember there were maybe. So I just want to say about the discovery that I had about. Maybe this is an exaggeration. I'm not sure, but in my mind, it's about close to 5 million pages, 5 million documents. It was a lot, and of that giant document dump that I received.
There's a document dump happening now.
I was only maybe as much as 30 to 35% I was never able to access, and this is documented at the court.
All right, so we'll get. I mean, this is whatever this is. We'll go further into where she just flat out defends Trump here. Talks about what a great guy he is. So there's a specific part of the interview where I heard this. I heard the transcript, and it's where she exonerates Trump and says how great he is. But it was very hard for me to find in the actual video. I could find it in the transcript, but this video from Forbes, and then another one for PBS, took me about an hour to find it, and I'll describe it here. But it's, it's very telling. So this is kind of important here. So I asked about Trump here, the amount of references to Trump, and there is 26. If you ask about Clinton, this is in the transcript. Clinton? Did I get that right there? Yeah. There's 58. So twice as many times Clinton and Trump are asked questions, but they don't have all of them in there. I couldn't find the spot of the video that I was looking for. I found this. Here's a PBS transcript. And PBS doesn't have a transcript on their video. So I had to go to their video on this. Couldn't find it on Forbes. I asked Grok, ChatGPT, and Gemini about it. They couldn't find it. Took me about an hour to find this section. I found it. It was on page, here it's on page 104. And that translates to about, I had to involve two of these transcripts. I had to go back and forth as I'm watching the video, trying to find out where it is in the video. And here it is here at 1:45 at the PBS video. So we can go get into that now. But what I want to say is that a lawyer never asks a question they don't know the answer to. Don't ask a question that you don't know the answer to. And, you don't want to get surprised, or you don't want to get something that hurts your client. And Todd Blanchett is Trump's lawyer. And so when he asks her about whether or not Trump was in the book, he knows she's going to say, I don't remember. Like that's, she has to say that, or she isn't going to get an upgrade to a better prison, right? She knows the game. She knows what has to be said. She knows who's involved. She knows what Trump, the power he has over her future. And so he's asking these questions. He knows the answers are going to be favorable to Trump, which is just that much more incriminating, right? And then he asks about massages, and you know where that's going to go because it's the same, it's the same thing. Okay, so just to explain this a little bit better, I just went to the farmer's market with my wife. It's Saturday today, August 23rd. You see that, it says Clinton here, and it's going to find in the transcript, and then you can click on this, and it goes to that part of the video, which makes it really easy. But I searched for all the key words, and this is a 5-hour video, and it wouldn't let me find the most important part of the video. So let me show you that part. So this video clip is 6 minutes and 8 seconds, so it's got an extra 9 minutes, so I don't know if Forbes edited out. It's got much better audio than Forbes, so I don't know if Forbes distorted the audio. I don't know why they would do it, because I would assume Forbes wants views. So it starts here with the Clintons.
Say that again?
Minsky was another person.
Do you know whether, for example, President Clinton ever received a massage?
I don't believe he did.
And what makes you say you don't believe he did?
Well, because I don't, so that's a good question. The time that Epstein...
Well, he's still a powerful person, and so there's two ways of looking at this. That what this guy's trying to get out of it. Now, the one thing he's trying to get out of it is her saying Trump was a great guy and he's innocent. And that's not great for Trump because she's admitting they have a relationship, which I'll get into in a bit. Because this is where the Trumpers, they're just so resistant to the truth. I mean, they're just so locked into, not seeing what Trump really is. It's, it's so pathetic at this point, but it's been pathetic for years, right? I mean, it's been pathetic really since January 6th when he ratted out his own people and he completely failed. It was pathetic before that when he did Operation Warp Speed and the way he handled the election. And it was really pathetic when he did that fake assassination attempt, which is so obviously fake. And if it was Joe Biden, all these same people would say it was fake, but they refuse. And truthers, people who publish truther content. But there's two ways of looking at this. That they wanted her to say Clinton definitely got a massage, which would make the focus on Clinton. But if they do that, then there might be testimony and people can, the Democrats can also subpoena some people. And before you know it, Trump's name comes back up. So if they want this thing to die, she's got to basically not give any juicy names, do anything that's going to cultivate follow-up on it. Like she's just going to be as, try to minimize this, make it like, well, this is a overblown interest and conspiracy theories about this, and just, squelch all these things about lists and squelch the thing about Trump being, giving the letter in the book and, all those types of things.
And President Clinton spent together the only times, I believe. Well, obviously they traveled. There was that, they went on the plane 26 times or whatever. That would be one journey. So they spent time on the plane together, and I don't believe there was ever a massage on the plane. So
I don't believe there's a massage on the plane. So, these guys are not going to have, I guess he used to get massages with Ghislaine in the room. He would have these girls, masturbate him or whatever while he was, whatever they did with him. Ghislaine would groom them and bring them in the room with him. But I'm sure these other guys wanted to be alone with the girls. I'm sure Trump would have wanted to be alone. So, there would just be this idea that the guy would be in a room alone with a girl, and you couldn't really say what was happening there. The girl would say what she saw, what she experienced, but as he said, she said, right? But even then, she'll perjure herself, Ghislaine, because the other piece to this thing is she is fighting for immunity because this guy got immunity for that really ridiculous sentence where he got work release, and everybody who was associated with him got immunity. It was a deal that you would only get as if you worked for intelligence community people, and powerful people wanted this story to die. And we see this with Barry Seal in that movie Made in America with Tom Cruise, and some other movies where, the Tom Cruise character Barry Seal says he's arrested. He said, "You're going to get a call in about 2 minutes saying to let me go." And that's what Jeffrey Epstein had, right? He was working with Mossad and the CIA or whatever it was. Definitely Mossad. I mean, that would be the number one, connection there. And, these people, he was either blackmailing, whatever was going on there. And so this story's never going to come out because it can't come out. Like if people knew how fucked up their government was, it just can't come out. I mean, it would destroy all faith in everything. If every person who was involved with this and the people who knew about it and were complicit, if like all the truth came out, it would be so wide sweeping. And then it would involve other scandals that people don't even know about, right? Like all these other things would come out. So if the truth were to come out about our government, people would be like, lose all faith in the government and the dollar. And I mean, the system would collapse. Our system is running right now on perception and denial, right? And the Trumpers, they really, know how to do the denial part.
Been the only time that I think that President Clinton could have even received a massage, and he didn't, because I was there.
And you mentioned that early, in the very beginning of the conversation, you mentioned President Trump in the early 90s.
Yes.
What did you observe as far as President Trump and his relationship with you or Mr. Epstein?
Well, I just want to say for my relationship with President Trump, relationship's a big word, but I just want to say that I met him, or I believe I may have, because of my father in the 90s.
Yep. Okay.
So my father liked him very much, and he really liked his wife as well, because they were both Czechoslovakian. And as far as I'm concerned, President Trump was always very cordial and very kind to me. And I just want to say that I admire his extraordinary achievement in becoming the president now, and I like him.
So that is very telling what you just said. I like him. So she is considered worse by the victims. She threatened some of the victims' lives, said that if they told anybody, they'd be killed. We'll go back here a little bit. 146, 46, yeah. We'll go back there. Listen to that again. But she was considered worse, like eviler than Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Jeffrey Epstein has a sexual addiction, weird sexual addiction, a perversion, right? And I'm not making excuses for him, but, somebody who has something like that, it's different than somebody who's very mental and contributes and is a pimp for that, right? Like, he's, whatever his sexual proclivities, what turns him on, and these young girls or whatever he had, is like, based in urges. It's, it's like a crime of passion compared to a premeditated crime where you mentally think something over. She comes from money. And so she comes from a wealthy, prestigious family. Her dad was a real prick and, whatever was going on with him. And she's connected to the royal family and all these other people. This is where, Prince Andrew gets involved, right? So, but she was the groomer. She would groom these girls and set them up, and she was recruiting the girls. And, why would she do that? Like, what is inside of her that she got off on doing that? She would abuse the girls herself and train them. She'd give them massages and, whatever it was, right? So she had her, like, weird stuff. And then she was, being when a woman does this to other women, it's just much worse. I mean, the way that she was treating these girls, many of them thought of her as being worse, right? And so this is the number one pedophile in the world. Is, people, I mean, the guy, the priests, like I've always said, the priests are worse because they represent God. And of course, we know about Jimmy Savile in England, who had 500 different victims and, maybe thousands, and, was involved with Prince Charles. I mean, that guy. But in terms of what people know in America, it's Jeffrey Epstein. And she is his, whatever handler, whatever nightmare role that she plays. And these two people, she's validating Trump. She says he's really kind. I really liked him. So you had one of the worst people in the world and someone who's the only, person left that's going to be culpable for what Jeffrey Epstein did. And she's in prison, and Trump can pardon her and has already, in a sense, given her a cushy deal in a camp. Now she's been moved to a camp. And so this guy, listen to the guy let her just talk and gush all over Trump, right? Trump's lawyer is deposing this woman, is asking her, to talk about what she can add to the Jeffrey Epstein debacle. And magically, she loves Trump, gushes all over him. What a great guy. What an amazing person. What a fucking, all this stuff. Totally innocent. He's got all the things she's going to say. He's allowing her to do this. And of course, they know they're going to release this thing. And she's also saying there's no list and there's no celebrities that are involved. There's a nothing burger. Of course, that's in her best interest as well, because the conspiracy belief makes her into like a fucking demon, devil-worshipping human trafficker that was servicing one of the most evil people in the world, Jeffrey Epstein, and then all these other people were being blackmailed, and she was a part of this thing. And so that's not going to get her anywhere. It's just going to, everybody who she knows something about is going to be scared she's going to talk. So she'd be a dead woman walking, right? And so, of course, she's going to give them what they want, and he's going to let her do it, right? He's going to encourage her to go on these long tangents about how great these people are and how innocent they are, right?
I believe I may have, because of my father in the 90s.
Yep. Okay.
So my father liked him very much, and he really liked his wife as well, because they were both Czechoslovakian. And as far as I'm concerned, President Trump was always very cordial and very kind to me. And I just want to say that I admire his extraordinary achievement in becoming the president now, and I like him, and I've always liked him. So that is the sum and substance of my entire relationship with him.
What about?
Okay, so that's he's liked by one of the most notorious human traffickers out there. Again, somebody coming from wealth and privilege that doesn't have to do this. I mean, at least unless she's doing it for the wealthy and privileged, and this is her role, or whatever her, wherever she found herself in this role, she's a piece of shit, right? She's a horrible person. And Trump was nice and cordial to her, and they had a good relationship. So she's being vouched for by Ghislaine Maxwell, which is very problematic. Because the Trumpers, in their the MAGA people, in their fucking dumb fuckery and their denial, will say, Trump is, she said things about it. They would say, oh, she's the worst person. So if she's naming Trump, well, that doesn't count because she's just untrustworthy. But now that she's praising him, oh, look, she's exonerating him. But this isn't, you don't want this person's endorsement, right? You don't want Ghislaine Maxwell saying you're a good guy, right? I mean, it's the Trumpers who, because of their just dumb fuckery, won't ever acknowledge anything about it, right? And so this comment I got today, there's a movie called Hey Trumpers, Trump Loomer, Fox News, and Tom McDonald think you're dumb fucks. And then the person wrote, well, I'm with Trump, Loomer, Fox News, and Tom McDonald on this one. Now, I'm not sure if he's agreeing that Trumpers are dumb fucks, or he's agreeing with what they say. But that's, if he's a Trumper, he's agreeing with what they say. It's kind of a vague comment. And it's also based on the title. But these people are treating the MAGA people like dumb fucks, because to roll Ghislaine Maxwell out and have her give this glistening, this endorsement of him and talking about what a wonderful person he is, and the lawyer just letting her talk, right? Because he works for Trump. I mean, does anyone think that this guy is out to get Trump in any way, shape, or form? A guy who's Trump's former personal attorney and now is working for Trump's corrupted Justice Department. So his job was to get Ghislaine Maxwell to exonerate Trump. But they know it isn't a good endorsement because they're dropping this on Friday, late at Friday night, a 6-hour video. They're hiding most of the video somehow in the search engines. Like, it was almost impossible for me to find this thing. I would have had to listen to an hour and 45 minutes of this to find this thing if it's 6 hours long. And so the transcripts are there, and you can also search the transcripts. But, he talks less about Trump half as much as he does about Clinton. And Trump is the big fish here because he's the president, and he's the one who's closing this fucking thing down, right? He's the one who's covering it up.
Mr. Epstein's relationship with him.
I don't know how they met, and I don't know how they became friends. I certainly saw them together, and I remember the few times I observed them together that they were friendly. I mean,
was that in social settings or was that in private settings?
I believe I only ever saw them in social settings. I don't recall any private settings.
Did you ever...
So Epstein's brother and these women who worked for Epstein, many of his victims all said that he was over there all the time. They were besties. And I think I have that I have a compilation. If not, it's out there. But they were besties. People are calling them besties left and right. I mean, his brother told these stories about him. And so Trump was very close to him. He called him a terrific guy that likes young women when Trump himself was going into the dressing room of 16, 17-year-old girls, hiring 17-year-old girls and saying how beautiful they were, flirting with young women. And he said Jeffrey Epstein was like him younger. That meant younger than Trump, and Trump liked him, barely legal or 16 or 17. And so, this whole thing, I mean, where do Trumpers go other than sticking their fingers in their fucking ears and closing their fucking eyes? Where do they go to avoid the truth? Because it's right there. Once this stuff starts coming out, you have to ask the question, how could Trump not know? If he didn't know, then he's the most oblivious motherfucker out there, because they weren't being secretive about this. This wasn't some secret. She's talking about prostitution and the massages and these things. And even as much as she's trying to downplay it, it's pretty clear that everyone around Epstein was aware of what's going on with this stuff. And Trump certainly was. Trump knew. He was around them. They were best friends for like 20 years. They were hung out, very exclusively in the late 90s and early 2000s. They were, they really hung out together. And he knew. They just didn't care because they were part of this elite club where this is normal fucking behavior. And so once you get that and Trump's a part of it, there's no there's no changing Trump's involvement. There's no excuse for it, right?
You ever been to Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach?
I have.
And what time period are you thinking about when you say yes?
Well, I don't remember when the president purchased Mar-a-Lago, so from whenever it turned into a club, I went there, and I loved going there.
Did you go there alone or with Mr. Epstein?
So she recruited Virginia Giuffre, who got Epstein, who's dead, who won a $12 billion lawsuit against Prince Andrew, was sexually abused by Prince Andrew, and she was one of the main victims. And she talked about being recruited in Mar-a-Lago. She worked for Trump, and Ghislaine Maxwell, she was reading a book on anatomy because she wanted to learn to be a masseuse, and Ghislaine Maxwell came in and groomed her and then sexually abused her in terms of gave her a massage and then touched her inappropriately, and then then set her up with Jeffrey Epstein. And so that's the kind of she was taking people, she was using Mar-a-Lago as a recruiting zone. Like, it's that bad, right? That's what this is. Once you get into it, you're like, there's no way Trump isn't complicit. I mean, he partook, I'm sure, but at the very least he knew, and he didn't say anything, and now he's covering it up. Like, he doesn't want people to know, doesn't even want people to talk about this because it makes him look like what he is, an elitist creep that's a part of these elitist, eyes wide shut type of behavior, these elitist fucking demonic sex parties and whatever devil worshipping bullshit they do, that Trump is fucking up to his neck in this stuff, right?
Me alone. Only times I went there was for an event, maybe once or twice.
And do you know whether Mr. Epstein ever went there?
I believe he did, but again, we really were. He didn't take me with him all the time, so he would go and. Oh right, I never. Well, he did from time to time, but he would go alone. I think he would maybe go himself to the spa. I certainly did.
Did you ever observe President Trump receive a massage?
Never.
Never. She said never. Look at how quick that was.
Did you ever observe? You said that you were. I mean, have you seen?
Again, why would this guy ask that question if he doesn't know the answer, right? Because she says, yeah, he got him fucking all the time. He was his biggest fucking client. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein was giving him massages. Like, I gave him like this, like if she says shit like that, right, then they're fucked, right? Because that says Trump was abusing young underage girls. That means Trump should be investigated. The Democrats get a hold of that. She says that, and they can disqualify her as a witness. But why in the world would she say that when Trump is, said before he wishes her well? Trump said he wished her well. Why would anybody wish Ghislaine Maxwell well? And then as soon as she's done with this, she gets rewarded by being moved to a lower, lesser prison. And the Trumpers just don't even react to it. They're still dumb fucking themselves. It's unbelievable, these MAGA fucking dopes. Like, what'll it take for you to realize this guy is the opposite of what you fucking thought he was? And he's running out martial law and doing all this bullshit. I mean, I've accepted the system needs to come down, and Trump is doing God's work in bring the system, demonic system down, not intentionally. So I don't give a shit. And I know you're never going to get the truth and all these things, but it's astounding the amount of denial that's out there. The way the liberals deny Joe Biden was fucking senile when he had obviously dementia. It's just so fucked up what people will do. That there's no reason to vote. Like, all this stuff tells you there's no reason to vote. Because the Democrats never gave a shit about this. Because they have their own Epstein problems. The Democrats never jumped on this till now because now it's about Trump and Trump's trying to hide it. But the Democrats never wanted this because the Democrats are as much controlled or more controlled by the CIA than the Republicans, who is also controlled by the idea of the deep state. And they told them, hey, stay away from this Epstein thing. But now that they've made it about Trump, and Trump is never going to release anything that's going to be damaging. Trump is going to squelch this thing. They're just trying to tie this cover up to Trump, and it does whatever damage it does, and then just so everyone moves on. That's how fucked politics are. Why would you think you could ever get a political solution when that's how depraved both parties are? And this whole thing, I mean, this story is such a sick story. And it's just one of fucking many. How many scandals have there been like this involving politicians and rich and powerful people, and it never, gets to everybody's thick skull that all these people at least know about it. If they don't partake, they know about it, right? And so there's the so-called elite people. That's Hollywood celebrities, athletes, pro athletes, all these people across the board. They're all, a part of this group, the really wealthy people, the powerful people, politicians certainly. Then they're just, treat other people like slaves. And you know that because they just order soldiers to their death all the time. They make decisions all the time that hurt and kill people all around the world. They bomb people. They drone innocent kids and families. They don't give a shit about it, human life or animal life or anything but themselves. And they're just horrible people that just think that they're above everyone else or these other groups of people, and that they can do whatever they want to these, everyone else. Like they can, to all of us, they can do whatever they want because somehow they've reached this stage where they're just a part of like they're a higher race of people. Like they're somehow more evolved than the rest of us.
There's photographs, public photographs of Mr. Epstein and President Trump together.
Yes.
And there's photographs of, I think you're in some of the photographs as well. Those all appear to be social settings.
Yes. That's my memory. There were social settings. I don't know.
Of course there's social settings because other people are taking the photographs and the videos. When they're in private settings, it's Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, and underage girls. Who's taking the photos? Who's going to have those? How's the camera get into that room, right? So if he's having private meetings, you don't have any photos of him on the plane with other. These are when public people are like, oh, look at there's Epstein, there's Trump over there. I'll take a photo of him. Yeah, so of course they're public. I mean, this guy is like, the way of their view of the MAGA people. So the whole reason that this is about the MAGA people, and this is something everyone should understand about politics. To whatever degree politics are real, Trump's one strength, Trump's one superpower, is his MAGA people's cult-like view of him and his hold on them. And because he has this cult-like hold on them, any other Republican is dead meat, is dead in the water unless they're in a very red state, in a very red district. They need MAGA support. And for them to move forward in the party, they need to kiss Trump's ring. It wasn't that case in his first term. And it wasn't the case the 4 years of Joe Biden. But it started to be more and more Trumpers started to get elected. Then you had the Marjorie Taylor Greens and all these other people who were Trump people, then converts to people who hated Trump like Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, who had to convert into being Trumpers. And so to be a Republican, you have to at least not smear or say anything bad about Trump, right? But Trump loses that superpower as soon as his dopey motherfuckers, these dumb fuck MAGA people, realize that Trump is as much of a pedo as Jeffrey Epstein. And that he's a fucking total nightmare and he's taking the country in the opposite direction than he promised. He's running into the ground. He's robbing the poor and giving to the rich. And the only thing he cares about is himself and his elitist buddies. And once they realize that, then Trump loses all power and popularity, and then he doesn't have really anything left, right? And the Republicans have to distance themselves from him. And so this is why this is being released and the way it's being released, because they have to save Trump's base. Because if Trump loses his base, he has nothing. I mean, as long as he has his base, then he has some leverage over the Republican Party. And as long as they hold the House and the Senate and these other positions. But once Trump is disavowed by his people, then I don't know if that could happen. Because they're so fucking dumb, right? And they're so oblivious to this stuff.
Epstein's, if he had, whatever the nature of the president's friendship, if you will, or however you want to define that with Epstein, They
were perv bros. They were best buddies who liked to abuse young women and whatever else.
A witness, I think they were friendly, like people are in social settings. I don't think they were close friends, or I certainly never witnessed the president in any of. I don't recall ever seeing him in his house, for instance. I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting.
Okay, so she's volunteering a lot of cover for Trump. She's calling him the president. So this is great but horrible because she's a horrible person and the people that follow Trump don't like her. And so how does it taste if you're a Trumper? Trumpers don't come to my videos anymore. The dumb fucks, because they don't like to be told. They don't like someone telling them that they're dumb fucks and be right about it. They don't like someone rightfully telling them they're dumb fucks, which, I can understand, but at some point, holy shit, right? But she's endorsing the shit out of this guy. Let's go back just a little bit here. She's endorsing the shit out of the guy, and, she's just laying it on thick. She's slathering all over him.
I was never witnessed. I think they were friendly, like people are in social settings. I don't think they were close friends, or I certainly never witnessed the president in any of. I don't recall ever seeing him in his house, for instance. I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
So, she's saying inappropriate with the girls that she was bringing to Epstein, recruiting 15-year-old girls for all this creepy stuff. Like, she doesn't have a problem with that kind of behavior because she was basically married to Epstein. They had almost like a marital relationship, right? And so there's a video, and I have that in, I'll put this by compilation at the end of this, and if you haven't seen it, but there's a video where he has a young girl on stage, and then he talks about hiring a young girl and how much she was like, he was like a drug addict, hiring a young pretty girl with no experience, that he was going to be tempted to sleep with her even though she was underage. And so that's Trump's thing. Trump brought the whole Miss USA pageants so he could go and inspect the girls. He was always around young women, porn stars, all these things. Like Trump said, that was his addiction. He talks about his addiction to so-called beautiful women. He's always surrounded himself with these beauty queens and models and actresses. He said he could walk up to a woman and just grab her by the pussy, which is his probably number one privilege as being, and you can't do that. Like, that's just false. Women, not all women give a shit about celebrities or, Trump. But that's one of Trump's perks. And so that's something in common he had with this motherfucker, right? The big, giant, colossal cursor nose. And this is what she was cultivating that, so of course he knew and was partaking, because he says more than anything else his addiction was young women and women, so-called beautiful women. And so you think he wasn't involved? Like, he knew what Jeffrey Epstein wouldn't tell him when he knew the kind of guy Trump was. They hung out with young women all the time. They were, they would go out. The brother said, these people, the guy who worked for Jeffrey Epstein at the offices, and he had to tell Trump to leave, right? And so, one of Trump's, the guy who ran his business said Trump had to cut off ties with him because Jeffrey Epstein was being a bad influence. The guy was encouraging Trump to cut off ties with him. There's all these people have come forward. And then Trump himself, Trump displayed that he's the kind of guy that Jeffrey Epstein would target because he had a weakness for young girls. And Jeffrey Epstein had young girls that he could use to blackmail these people and the rest. And so the final nail in the straw in this coffin for Trump, not that you need any more information, it was more than enough to at least convict him in the court of public opinion that we all know he's guilty, whether we're ever going to get the truth or not. We know Trump is complicit and was best buddies with Jeffrey Epstein, and the evidence is overwhelming. He called Jeffrey Epstein a terrific guy in a quote that was being quoted in one of these, these liberal newspapers that was doing a fluff piece on him. And he said that Jeffrey Epstein liked to party, liked his social life, and he likes young girls. And that's all you knew. But the end of this thing, Trump's covering it up. Trump's starting to bury something and telling all the Republicans and MAGA people, this isn't an issue that you guys concern yourself. This is a Democrat hoax to get me. And nobody fucking believes it. So Trump is fucking guilty. Like, he is fucking guilty. And we may never get the proof to show that, these what people would consider proof, but the proof is right there in front of us, at least in terms of our ability to see what's going on here, right?
Last time you think you saw in person President Trump?
It's been a long time. Probably not. Sometime in the beginning, mid 2000s maybe, and it would only have been a social setting, as far as I recall.
Yeah, social. They want social setting was a word that they try to get. How many times did he said social? Because he didn't want it to be private, because Epstein did shit in private. But social, there's other people watching. That's their whole thing. And he's got this woman who's completely beholden to Trump, and Trump has already rewarded her with, a minimum security, like a camp after going to minimum security, and so she's already benefited from him. He may give her a pardon at some point, which would be atrocious, but he might be able to get away with it. I don't know how, but it's just how dumb are the fucking dumb fuck MAGA Trumpers, right? And so, it's that fucking bad.
And did you ever hear Mr. Epstein or anybody say that President Trump had done anything inappropriate with masseuses or with anybody in your world?
Absolutely never.
Absolutely never. Like, look at the endorsement she's given. So again, set up. Trump's lawyer. They're doing this, not going in front of a Democratic Congress or something that would want different information, that would want stuff that indicted Trump, right? Not going from a Democratic Senate or Congress, not going in front of the, some kind of independent council or liberal council or Democratic council, and some whatever it is, some law enforcement agency that's going after Trump. A guy that clearly is indicating to her, and she knows, like, if I want to get out of here, I better kiss Trump's ass. And the Republican judges that Trump has appointed that will rule that she is that under the Jeffrey Epstein deal, that all of his accomplices and all the people around him also got immunity. And so, if she talks, she's dead. That's the other thing. I mean, Epstein, she's going to get Epstein. So she comes out here and kisses Trump's ass, she'll be protected. At least, Trump is disloyal and whatever, but certainly, this is the only thing she can do, right? And everybody with half a brain should know it, but the Trumpers, they got, I don't know what the MAGA people have, a third of a brain.
In any context.
Let's listen to that, like how glowing this is.
Anybody in your world?
Absolutely never. In any context.
Do you know whether...
What did I say, too? I said the reason, if they're releasing these tapes, then she has given him a glowing endorsement, and that the reason they're releasing the tapes is because she's saying that Trump didn't do anything. That's the only reason they were releasing the tapes, and that this guy went in there. I said it because it was obvious. There's no way she's going to say... Why would she say Trump is a piece of shit? How does it benefit her? She'd be dead, right? Like, on top of everything else. So, she would become Trump's enemy and be a vulnerable person in prison. How quickly would she be Epstein then? And, she doesn't give a shit about the truth. She fucking is a sexual offender. She's a groomer of young girls. She's a human trafficker. She's as low as you could be. So...
Masseuses from Mar-a-Lago spa ended up giving massages to private massages to Mr. Epstein.
Why don't they find the girls that said that Trump abused them? And there's girls out there that have said that.
I'm not asking for what you may have read, but at the time, from your personal knowledge, do you know whether that's true?
I don't recall. Is it possible? Yes, but I don't remember that. So I don't recall that, but it's possible.
Do you have recollection of you ever recruiting a masseuse from Mar-a-Lago spa to go give a private massage to Mr. Epstein?
I've never recruited a masseuse from Mar-a-Lago.
Okay, so Virginia Giuffre said that's her story. Virginia Giuffre's lawyer has come out and said this is her story. She told it over and over again. And so this is debated. This is, the number one victim who's now been suicided, who's now been Epstein, who's dead, who was abused by Prince Andrew, got a big lawsuit, a big settlement, $12 million. And she said that Ghislaine Maxwell recruited her. So I'm going to just go to my tape. It's getting late. I spent so much time searching for this. I want to cover this more in the next couple days. But think about these MAGA Trumpers. the number one pedophile groomer, the number one pedo groomer, and Ghislaine Maxwell, it gave him a glowing endorsement in front of his personal attorney and was rewarded for it by being moved to a camp-like prison from an already minimum security federal prison. And so she's that much better off now. And she's the worst one of the worst people in the world in terms of what MAGA people and people in the truth community think about Epstein and this whole thing. And how long before they realize they can't do it. They're incapable of seeing what Trump is. And it's pathetic. They're fucking pathetic. All right, so I'm going to wrap this one up here, but then I'm going to put the compilation on afterwards. I may or may not do a second, greeting or ending. People will say to me, "Oh, the video just stops." It's because if you're listening to me now, I'm putting in the compilation for people who haven't seen it, and it has all the evidence of Trump being a piece of shit and connected. Not all of it. I mean, just some of it. It's an hour fucking long, right? And so here's that. But anyways, only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely important for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful. Okay, so this video here is the rest of the compilation. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to slap the compilation on here. I'm not going to do a second closing for obvious reasons. Anyways, here it is. So before I show you this compilation, I just want to add this. This is where I am as a truther and where I am as a person. I don't need to convince anybody to do anything or believe what I believe or, that's not what I'm trying to do. I don't have an agenda. I don't know, how, if people do the Sajmarg meditation, which, I can't expect people to do it better than me, and I only do it okay, right? But certainly it's helped me become a better person. But, in terms of the meditation that I do, the Gratefullness meditation, it's always been hard for people to even try it and then for people to stick with it. And, I know it would make the world a better place, but, I'm not going to hold my breath and wait for people to do it. Like, they just don't. And it's not my concern if they do or don't, right? And that's the only thing I really would endorse in terms of, I know it makes the world a better place. And if people can do it, and it's lots of times they really can't. Like, that's not for everybody. So, I've been talking about it long enough, long before I had this YouTube channel, and I know people, and I've seen it with loved ones and friends and family and people I don't like and people who do the system, to know that it's not something that people are just naturally able to integrate into their life. And so other than that, I don't know anything that's going to have a positive outcome. I don't know, there's nothing that's going to change the world for the better. In terms of, the only thing is the system coming down. And that'll happen naturally. So I don't have some agenda. I don't have some manipulation. I don't give a shit what people believe or not believe. I'm not trying to sell people on me and my channel. Other than the natural kind of ways that I would talk about it in a way that would, make people gravitate to it. But I don't, sell people. I'm not putting out a resume and talking about bragging and talking about how great I am and the channel is and saying all these things to people and buttering them up and pandering to them. I just don't do any of that shit, right? Because I don't give a shit, right? I don't care. But, all I do here is I give my opinion and whatever channeling, whatever divinity, my connection to divinity reveals any of these things, right? Whatever flows through me. And I don't care that much about the videos. That's why when people are, negative or positive towards me about the videos, I have a very balanced view on it because I talk I say what I say here, and I pretty much let it go. And I usually forget what's in the video itself. But having said that, there is an element within the truth community, or, I like to call myself a realityist. Is that what it was? Seeking reality. The reality is often beyond the things that people, subjective things that people cling to. Things that are God's will that people just wouldn't believe are coming from the divine. There's things that God not only permits but encourages in terms of all the things that happen in this world that are kind of fucked up, right? And they're within within all those things, there's force, right? In the animal kingdom, reproduction is often rape, like in terms of, various types of animals and fish and, these things. The male animal raping the female animal, right? Or something like with the praying mantis, where the praying mantis male mates with the praying mantis female, and then she turns around and eats the motherfucker, right? I saw that happening. I saw these praying mantises mating. Like I was kind of like watching a little bit because the male, like his whole abdomen just disappeared. Like I guess it was full of seed. And I checked in when I went for walks and they were there. And then like I came back and she was eating the motherfucker, right? I'm like, I guess they finished and, whatever. But there's brutality and force in nature. And, there's dominance. The reason that there's the word bully is that there's these big bulls, male bulls, that push their way and dominate. And, they have a dominant pecking order, and even worse with chickens. It's even more aggressive. And these animals they push their way and they take the best spots wherever. If you throw out hay, they find the best hay and they push everybody out of the way and, and get the hay that they want. Same thing with chickens. They peck the chickens trying to eat their food, and they have a pecking order of domination. And the dominant animal gets a better deal. Like, male lions sitting around waiting for the women to bring back food. And the male lions get to eat their fill of the best cuts of, meat or whatever it is. And so a lot of these things that are in nature are certainly not, egotistical or some kind of, whatever. They're just some creature that has more power, more physical power, more of a, can kick the other creature's asses, and they just impose their will. It happens all the time, right? Sometimes it's a smaller creature. We have these hawks that fly around, and red-winged blackbirds who have laid eggs and have babies will mercilessly peck at these. They'll be flying and doing these dive bombs and pecking at the hawks and trying to get them out of the way. And the hawks will land on these like where the power cords, where the like telephone poles are, and the red-winged blackbirds will wait till the hawk goes to fly away and they'll start at it again, right? I watch it all the time. I watch these 3 hummingbirds fighting over a hummingbird feeder. You have these kind of things where there's these, just brutality, selfishness, greed. Maybe not even greed. It's just, for survival. And animals using their physical power to dominate other animals, right? And then you have that in human species. And, I'm not applauding it, saying it's natural. But where you have, and human beings think on a much deeper level and have a lot more perversions and things like this. And so you have this with Trump and people like him, these elite people that just look like they just believe that they can do anything to these other people, the rest of us, because they have money and power and the rules don't apply to them. There's rules and laws for everybody, but they're subjectively enforced. Even for the lower level people. And there's people that just exploit young girls and, kids and other people, enslave them and treat them like shit. And we know this happens. It's they pretend it doesn't, but it happens. And the people who are being oppressed, they kind of see that there's these 2 levels. And in America, you can kind of move up your level, based in money and privilege. And you have a certain level of privilege and things. And so, most people are in the pecking order in some place. They kind of understand it and don't really complain about it. Once in a while, you see something so egregious. And this idea of these rich people, having sex with kids and just, these wise, wide shut type of people and all this stuff. It just rubs people the wrong way. And the Trumpers took advantage of the people who were in the so-called truth community, especially right-wing dopes, who were upset about Pizzagate. And this was a big thing, and they all were hyper-focused on Epstein, and all these people tapped into that, and they promised something that Trump couldn't have them deliver because he's one of these motherfuckers. He's always been one of these elitist people who thinks he can just, based on his celebrity, grab women by the pussy and do these other things, right? And so, what they were trying to do here with Ghislaine Maxwell and his attorney is make her sound like a reasonable person and minimize this whole thing and pretend that there's nothing to see here. But people who are upset about this, and the Trumpers who are upset at him for not, doing what he was supposed to do and release the information, be transparent, they don't like Ghislaine Maxwell, and they're certainly not going to like Trump's lawyer. And, I don't know where this goes and how this plays out, but it's, all a part of this whole thing, like I've been talking about. This whole idea of these elitist people who, don't really want you to know what they're about or what they're up to, because there would be a revolt. And the people who are in charge of the system, all of them, liberals, Democrats, Republicans, different layers of the system, they know that, right? They know that there's certain things people can't know. These are things that they're system killers. They kill the beast. And people will, just say, no matter what their consequences to themselves, they'll just say, we've had enough. But, people are so addicted and so depraved themselves and playing weird video games and watching disturbing pornography, and they're so immoral, and they've lost any sense of, religion and spirituality and, any sense of ethics. And so it doesn't really fucking matter. And that's why nobody really understands that nothing really is going to be so upsetting that it kills somebody, politically or some other way. The Me Too movement and all that kind of stuff. All that, whatever was going on with that. Some people lost their careers, and some people, the ones that sort of copped to it and admitted to it, the ones who just ignored it, it just went away. Jimmy Kimmel's and some of these other people. But, this is what I'm saying. This is the depravity that we all know that exists. And, the main part, what I want to say here before we get into this is, there's things that you can call factual. If somebody's been convicted of something, even if they're falsely convicted, you could say that guy's a murderer. Even if the guy isn't a murderer, you can say it. You're not slandering the guy, and it's a fact. And these people who control the facts or need facts oftentimes are covering things up, right? Sometimes you can know something happened. You just fucking know it, right? Let me give you an example of this. So there was a woman I dated. She was my, maybe first kind of real love. She was really a horrible person. Came from a family of alcoholics. I was in Atlanta. She was originally from South Carolina. And she was, I've talked about her before, just a mean person that liked to hurt other people, and, she got off on power and these things. She was fucked up, which took me a while to understand. And I was working at a restaurant with her, and she started to date the bartender. We kind of broke up, but it was not really clean. And she started to date the bartender. And, we were kind of friends, me and the bartender. It was kind of, awkward. And one time his brother came into town, and his brother was asking him questions as I walked up to the bar. And he said, "Be quiet," to his brother. I'm not supposed to know this, right? And I looked at both of them, and I cyclically knew my ex-girlfriend had an abortion, and it could have been my baby. I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And the only information that I had was that this bartender told his brother to be quiet. And immediately the idea came to me what had happened. And I just knew it, I fucking knew it. And I confronted her and I said it, and she looked at me like, how the fuck did you figure that out? Right? She was probably pissed at him because they were the only two people that knew. And she then quickly, I could tell she was lying, said that she had a DNC, which was, I think it was a DNC, that the baby had miscarried, and then she had the procedure to get rid of what was left of it, right? But I knew that wasn't true because she could have told me that, right? Or, there's no reason to keep that a secret. The only reason to keep it a secret is if she had an abortion. And, and I could feel it. I knew, it was there. And it was, possibly my baby, right? So there's that, but I was left out of the whatever it was. But I, had almost no information. I figured this thing out, right? And I wasn't thinking anything. I wasn't suspicious of anything. I was just fucking working. And, it was kind of an awkward situation. But I, was not, I was hurt by whatever's going on. It was kind of awkward to be seeing her be with another guy. But, I kind of knew she was fucked up then, and I was kind of, happy to be out of the relationship. But sometimes you just know things. And I had no facts. I had nothing, right? I had nothing to go on. But sometimes you just know. And sometimes you just know somebody's lying, but you can't prove it. You can't prove the person's lying. And so this is what I'm talking about here. With the, all the things that I cover here, there's lots of things that you can't prove factually. And there's lots of shit that people make things up and they claim they know something when they don't. They're just full of shit. They don't have the mental capabilities and the intuition to figure things out. But sometimes you just know things, right? And, there's no factual evidence that you'll ever see connecting Donald Trump directly to abuse other than some girl that comes forward who says that she was forced to have sex with Trump based on Epstein. And there was a video that somebody sent me and it disappeared. And I couldn't find it again. And somebody sent me, it was a young woman who was giving her testimony about what Trump did to her. She said she had 4 sexual interactions with Trump. And I don't know if it's true or not. There's no way to, I don't know who she is or what it is. Like it becomes a he said, she said. But we do know from all the evidence that you're about to see here is that Trump is, he's totally a pig when it comes to women, especially, younger women. And he has all the same proclivities as Jeffrey Epstein, and they were friends for 20 years. He called him a terrific guy, said Jeffrey Epstein liked young girls, all the things that Trump said. And you'll see the evidence, and it's just there. Like whatever that really happened here with Trump and these girls and whatever he knew and didn't know about Jeffrey Epstein, he's guilty as fuck. Like it's just, the specifics aren't there. It's that Trump's a part of these elite group of people that all do shit like this, and they all fucking know about it, and they know that there's a depravity and there's immorality and abuse, and a lot of these people who get rich and wealthy is because they abuse people in this way. And so it's just right fucking there. And so it's only people just who are Trumpers in this case who are so in denial that just don't want to admit it. So with that in mind, here is the whole, the compilation. Okay, so this is a compilation. Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is a video I'm making, but it's also going to be a standalone compilation of all the times Trump has been creepy over the years and admitted to liking young girls and being complicit and engaging in inappropriate behavior with Jeffrey Epstein. And so this is all the times he's just told you what he is and what kind of guy he is, what he treats women, all these types of things, right? And so I'm putting it all in one place. It's a long compilation, but I will need it from time to time and just, then I have to go find all these clips again and just, it's all right there. Like this is all you need to know about Trump being guilty. And there's probably a lot more out there, but you don't even need, this is overkill. This is too much. Like just need one thing. Like he's revealing, people hide what they are inside. But Trump kind of never really did. He doesn't hide what he has inside, and he thinks it's okay. That's why him saying grab him by the pussy or whatever. And then defending it years later in a deposition, which I think I have here in these clips. Pretty sure it's here. And so, he's not hiding that he's a creep, and yet his supporters just won't believe it. But here's all the evidence. Greetings, brothers and sisters. Today is the 6th of August. And it is a Wednesday. And it's 2025. So, did I say greetings? I'm a little bit groggy this morning. But I saw this last night at Jake Tapper had a thing. And I'm going to go watch it when I eat breakfast to make sure I didn't miss the Jake Tapper part. Because I thought it was worth saving. I looked for the video. They didn't put it up on CNN. But they put up this part, which is part of the most important part. So Trump is just, he talks like a freaking criminal. He's just incriminating himself. And he's lost, when you drink alcohol, the first thing that it affects is the part of your brain where you self-perceive, where you see yourself as others see you, right? You're looking through other people's eyes at what you're doing. And when you drink alcohol, you just lose that. And so all your inhibitions go down because you don't care what you look like in front of other people. And this also happens as you age. You see this with older people who just, seems like they just give up. They no longer care about the way people look at them. And, they lose sense of hygiene or whatever it is. And, And a lot of that has to do with their brains deteriorating. And somebody who eats a lot of toxic food, like a guy who eats at McDonald's, I mean, Trump does not have a healthy diet. He's in relatively good shape for a guy who doesn't, seem to care about healthy things. Of course, he doesn't drink. There's been, the one guy said that he did a lot of Adderall and Coke. But, he doesn't have a healthy lifestyle. But his brain has deteriorated to such extent. And he's also feeling himself as invulnerable and invincible. And it's the one thing I don't want to say admired, but appreciated about Trump is that he just tells the truth without telling the truth. He's always lying, but you can see through his lies. Like he's transparent, unintentionally transparent, right? And he's a grifter and a criminal. And this was, I'm going to show you the whole clip and then I'm going to dissect it. But it's such a great example. Like Trump is just admitting to everything right here. Let's just watch the whole clip here.
What elections are all about. Yeah, please.
Thank you so much, President Trump. Two questions for you. One, were you aware of and did you personally approve the prison transfer for Ghislaine Maxwell that your Justice Department?
I didn't know about it at all. No, I read about it just like you did.
And do you believe that she is?
It's not a very uncommon thing.
Do you believe that she's credible to be listening to? Your Deputy Attorney General sat down with her recently.
Well, let me tell you, he's a very talented man. His name is Todd Blanche. He's a very legitimate person, very high. I just a very highly thought of person, respected by everybody. And I didn't talk to him about it, but I will tell you that whatever he asked would be totally appropriate, and it's not an uncommon thing to do that. And I think he probably wants to make sure that, people that should not be involved or aren't involved are not hurt by something that would be very, very unfortunate, very unfair to a lot of people. But I will say this, Todd Blanche is one of the most highly respected people you'll ever meet. So I know this. I didn't discuss it with him, but anything he talked about with her or the fact that he did that, not unusual, number one, and most importantly is something that would be totally above board.
Okay, so that that is fucking horrible. That is fucking just a total criminal talking like a criminal in front of people with the reporters like I'm a criminal and you guys are going to say shit about it. And they're not. I mean, they're not just like, I don't know if they hope people can see it, and I know people can't because everyone's been so dumbed down, right? Like, I was saying in my last video, when they get away with something like they did with Bill Clinton and Bill Clinton, banging an intern in the White House, it opened it up for Trump and all these other criminals because they know, all right, we know the American people aren't going to do shit about this, right? Like the lockdown, the COVID lockdown, and the people just dropping like flies. And there's no investigation. I mean, that vaccines have a vaccine court and you can't sue them. And yet they pressured everyone to take one without, having proper third-party testing. Trump rushed the thing out, right? And then, Operation Warp Speed and the way Biden handled it. And, Big Pharma having like just overwhelming power in the, in the media and politics. And just, and people losing their kids to heart attacks. And now they're putting defibrillators in like schools. And people don't give a shit. They don't even know, never mind fucking being mad about it. Right? CNN had a guy who was, the last president, Jake Tapper, who called him out, towards the end of the thing. But he was senile and a groper and a bad guy, Joe Biden, before they ran him for president. And CNN had done a hit piece on him in 2015, so they knew. They covered all of his shit, his groping, his all these things. And that was before dementia set in, before Parkinson's. So, they'd suck. And CNN could have covered the Jeffrey Epstein stuff forever. They could have covered it. But they're like, oh, this is a right-wing thing. And that's how bad it is. No one's, cares about the truth until an issue, getting to the truth of anything, but certainly the issues that are looked at Republican issues. Oh, the Republicans are into Jeffrey Epstein. So that's stuff we'll talk about on Fox News, in a very vague way. Because, Fox News is owned by Rupert Murdoch, who is, a Mossad asset, right, and a pro-Israel guy. And so they're not going to get to the bottom of anything at Fox, and certainly not at CNN. But now they look at it as, oh, wow, this is a bad thing for Trump, and it's a horrible thing for Trump, right? But CNN doesn't care about the victims, and neither does Trump. And so let's go through this, right? This is Trump just admitting to everything, right?
Elections are all about, yeah, please.
Thank you so much, President Trump. Two questions for you. One, were you aware of and did you personally approve the prison transfer for Ghislaine Maxwell that your Justice Department?
I didn't know about it at all. No, I read about it just like you did.
Okay, so that's not the meat of the thing. Like that's bad in itself, because that's a lie. It has to be a lie. Like, so if they're transferring Ghislaine Maxwell from, a prison where the girls say that she was worse than Jeffrey Epstein. Like, she threatened their life. She, groomed them. Like, they consider her worse. And as a woman, it's always worse, right? A woman-on-woman crime, like a woman who's exploiting young girls for some creepy old guy. The woman, she'd always be seen worse. If you saw a movie, if they should make it like a movie of Jeffrey Epstein and, all these people, and include Trump as a character, right? And so, there should be some kind of, they won't do it because of the people who control Hollywood, because it would, they would have to make reference to the CIA and Mossad and all this stuff, make a good one. But Ghislaine would be the fucking evil witch that would, everyone would think of her more of a villain than they would even Jeffrey Epstein, right? Jeffrey Epstein's just a dopey creep, he'd be played by, some kind of a dopey creep, just like Trump would be. But Ghislaine Maxwell was in there. Virginia Giuffre said that she was, scarier and eviler than Jeffrey Epstein. They all felt this way. So she did all this human trafficking. She's a fucking nightmare. And Trump wishes her well. Trump had already said he wishes her well, right? But he's transferring her to a lower security prison for, that's already, they're giving her something. She's going from a fucking worse place to a better place. And Trump is getting, this is not going away. Trump is realizing this is not going away. They've thrown everything at it. And they realize that it's just, now that MSNBC and CNN are covering it, it's going to stick. And, Trump talked about Reagan being Teflon, but Trump has been Teflon. He's had more accusations, more court filings, more lawsuits, more scandals. A lot of it real. A lot of it that should have, it would have ended any politician's career when I was growing up. And, until Bill Clinton got away with the Monica Lewinsky thing. And Bill Clinton had Teflon, and Reagan had Teflon. But this Jeffrey Epstein story is like the kryptonite to his Teflon. This is the one thing where, his base, which is a cult, a cult of dumb fucks. And, this is a drop dead issue for them, right? And so, if he loses their support in any real way, the Republicans who want to take back their party, they have that opportunity. So, it's that. And so he knows about this, right? He knows about every little thing about this, or should. And so it represents the plausible deniability. I don't know about that. He finds out shit from reporters all the time. That's a guy who shouldn't be president. He goes, oh, I'm just hearing that from you now. He should know all these things. And he does, and he's lying about it. He wants plausible deniability. He doesn't want to be accountable for something like that, for everything. So everything they ask him, he's like, I don't know about that. Well, Pam Bondi's handling that. He's got people that are shields between him and the actual issue. And so that's the first thing. That's really bad. And that's not even, because he says it all the time. You think we're fucking stupid? We think you're not thinking about this thing at all? You think they're not going to you and saying, hey, we want to put her in a minimum security prison. What do you think how that might happen? In terms of a criminality, because he's got exposure on Epstein, which they all know. He fucking was number 2 to Ghislaine Maxwell. Jeffrey Epstein was closest to Ghislaine Maxwell. They were a weird kind of couple. And Trump was his best buddy. He was the next person closest to Jeffrey Epstein. They had a 20-year relationship, and he was with him more than any of these other people. And so, you know, he's got the most exposure. And this has happened under his watch. Jeffrey Epstein being killed at a federal prison. You know, he was in charge of the federal government, and all the other aspects of this thing has happened there. And then them trying to bury the case is happening right now. It's his scandal. He owns it. And he doesn't know? Of course he knows, right? And so how stupid does he think people are? And just that's a criminal saying that, right? Like, what's the best answer for me? And I showed you in my last video from yesterday how he was talking about how Clinton misplayed, you know, as a scumbag criminal and as a perv, his issues with women, Monica Lewinsky, and these other things, right? How he didn't do it right. Like his team and his lawyers didn't play it right because he's a guy who gets away with shit, right? Not about, well, how wrong it is, because he doesn't have any moral fiber, and I'll show you this in a moment. Well, let me go to that now. Let's go to that first here. So there's a teenage girl. He's giving a hug, right? So I don't know where this is from. It looks like, you know, fairly recently.
I had a case. It was very interesting. A beautiful girl who was 17 or 18 applying to be a waitress. She's so beautiful. She's like a world-class beauty, like the young lady who just asked the question about the actress.
Okay, so he's talking about, he's like 17, 18, whatever it was, right? World-class beauty that is a young girl that he's looking at as a sexual object, right? He's seeing her as beautiful.
She's like a world-class beauty, like the young lady who just asked the question about the actress. She's so beautiful. And my people came, she said, look, Mr. Trump, she has no experience. So I interviewed her anyway, because she was so good. And I said, let me ask you, do you have any experience? She goes, no, sir. I said, when did you start?
So that's him admitting that he hired a young girl who didn't have any qualifications just because she was pretty, right? You know, like just young, you know, this is her.
Who was 17 or 18 applying.
So this is a, you know, just illegal or barely legal. And, you know, it's 18 is legal, or 17 might be legal for consent in some states, but, you know, he's a 50, 60-year-old man. There's nothing but creepery there, right? Like, it's just creepy. Like, it's just, you know. And if he's into young girls here, of course, him and Jeffrey Epstein talked about it because they're both into young girls. Like Trump said, he said that he likes beautiful girls as much as I do, right? He gives this girl a kiss.
You start. You can work in my plan anytime. See, now, she worked in my plan. That's like a death wish for me, right? That's like an alcoholic. I have many friends here, wonderful people. They're alcoholics. You put scotch in front of them. It's like, this would be my form of alcoholism.
So this is Trump admitting to, like, he's saying that this is like putting alcohol in front of him. Now, we already know that he thinks he can just walk up to women and grab them by the pussy. We already know that he admitted to going backstage into the changing rooms, the private rooms for the young girls that no one was allowed in, and where they were naked and half naked, and that he went in there, and the people who worked for him said that go up and talk to him, and you know, whatever. I covered this in my last video, the stuff that's there. Go up to him and, you know, smooth with him and touch him or whatever it was, right? So we know there's been multiple complaints about him sexually harassing and sexually abusing women in one capacity, which he's admitted to. He said he got away with it because he was the owner of the pageant. So he'd want to walk into these teenage girls' dressing room and, you know, when they're half naked, and that it's like he's an addict. It's like an alcoholic. He's addicted to these young girls. And this was from 2007, the Learning Annex Real Estate and Wealth Expo. He was paid $400,000 to give speeches there, right, to promote whatever they were promoting. He talked about this being his addiction, and consent from the young girls was never a problem. It's not something he considers, right? And he's talking about it right when Jeffrey Epstein's getting busted. So he's talking to business people And everyone knew what the kind of scoundrel he was. They probably knew what kind of scoundrel Jeffrey Epstein was. And they probably knew what Trump was into. It was probably kind of an open secret there with Jeffrey Epstein and all these people. They were getting away with this kind of behavior. And there was no Me Too. There was no, these were just rich and powerful men who were sexually abusing young women. And there wasn't much of an outcry, right? Jeffrey Epstein was just about to get charged. And then that was going to change these things. But he's openly admitting, like he did in the interview, it said that Jeffrey Epstein likes beautiful women as much as I do. He likes to party, and he likes them young. And if Trump's like 16 and 17-year-old girls and 18-year-old girls, which he is, and he's saying, that he's attracted to them, and he would, it's like he would hire these girls, and then it would be like an addict. He would just be, trying to bang them. Or, abusing them or doing whatever it was. He was a married man. And, all this stuff. And so he's a scumbag, which he admits to here. So let's get back to this here.
And do you believe that she is
It's not a very uncommon thing.
Okay, so first, it's not an uncommon thing. So for Trump's attorney to go talk to, one of the assistant attorney general, but his attorney, and we'll get into that in a moment. But for his attorney to go talk to Ghislaine Maxwell to get to the bottom of things would not be something that, 6 months ago would even be questioned by his base. Like if his attorney was going to talk to her and in support of the victims and in support of getting the truth out and making some sort of deal where she would name names and do the rest of the stuff that she could do, right? Tell the whole story. That would be, that would be not uncommon. But Trump is already defensive, right? He's saying this isn't uncommon. He's already defending something because he knows it's skullduggery, right? That's the first thing. So he's incriminating. This is criminal talk. This isn't uncommon. She didn't even ask if it's uncommon, right? He's already every time he talks about this since the very beginning, when he came out and said all these things about. Even before was interviewed. And, I'll include all those clips. I'm going to turn this beginning part into a compilation of his self-incriminating and creepy shit he said, right? But, because I have that section from my other video I'm going to put in here somewhere. Not for today. Well, maybe I'll leave it in there for today just because it's, it's relevant and people can watch it again or not. You can fast forward. But either way, he's incriminating himself, right? And so that's not uncommon. No one said it was uncommon, right? You're the one who's bringing that shit up.
I think that she's credible to be listening to. Your deputy attorney general sat down with her recently.
Well, let me tell you, he's a very talented man. His name is...
So he was saying not uncommon to move her. Of course it is. Now his deputy attorney general is his former lawyer, his criminal lawyer, his personal lawyer, right? So he's used this guy as a lawyer, and then he's got a lawyer-client privileges, right? So his lawyer can't rat him out. His lawyer was already working for him, and that's uncommon. That's, to have a personal attorney and then put that personal attorney in as deputy attorney general, someone who's represented you and your interests before, and then to hire that guy to represent the country because it's supposed to be independent from the presidency, that's already criminal shit right there. And the guy can't testify against Trump because he's got privileges, right? Attorney-client privileges, right? And so this thing.
Let me tell you, he's a very talented man. His name is Todd Blanche. He's a very legitimate person, very high.
What do you mean legitimate? He's a very legitimate person? What does that even fucking mean? You mean as opposed to a criminal fucking attorney? You're comparing him to Better Call Saul? Is this Better Call Saul? This guy's Better Call Saul because you wouldn't have to say he's legitimate. He's fucking assistant attorney general. He better be fucking legitimate. He's very legitimate. He's already defending this, right? It's very common to move a person of Ghislaine Maxwell from a maximum security to minimum security. Why is that? She's one of the most hated people in America, and the victims say that she's worse than everybody else, right? That Jeffrey Epstein and you and the rest of them. She's the real villainess. She's the fucking Kali, of the fucking group, the witch. She's fucking bad. And you know, I mean, if anybody should be punished, it's her. Jeffrey Epstein, of course, is dead. And so, like, he's real legitimate. What the fuck are you talking about, right? Like, this is criminal speak. Like, he's defending something that's not above board.
Talented man. His name is Todd Blanche. He's a very legitimate person, very high. I just a very highly thought of person, respected by everybody.
Okay, so when he means everybody, he means only the people that matter. Because it's Trumpers and the Trump team. Because I don't respect him. I don't respect anybody who works for Trump. I don't care what your reason is. The guy's a piece of shit. I don't respect any of these politicians. I don't respect anybody who worked for Biden. I don't respect any of these. I don't respect it. It's not respectable. These are scumbag criminal motherfuckers, right? These are the worst of the worst. So I don't respect it. I'm not a part of everyone. I mean, everyone respect. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, everyone? Do the Democrats respect your former criminal attorney being interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell? This guy has Trump's interests. This is Trump's interest lawyer. He's the guy who makes sure that Trump's interests are taken care of. Does he give a shit about the victims? No. Because he said it over and over again. Like, this is, he'll say it right here.
Highly thought of person, respected by everybody. And I didn't talk to him about it, but I will tell you that whatever he asked would be totally appropriate. And it's.
Why would it not be appropriate? What would be inappropriate about what he asked Ghislaine Maxwell? What are you talking about? Is he gonna fucking pleasure himself while she regales stories of the fucking Epstein days? Like, what fuck you mean he's appropriate? Why wouldn't it be appropriate? Right? Like, he's everything he's saying is he's telling you it wasn't appropriate, right? I mean, it's just like so fucked up. He's admitting to everything here and he doesn't even know it. Like, this is like I said about alcoholism and things like that, where you're drinking alcohol and your brain doesn't work to show you how you appear to other people. Like, he doesn't even understand how bad he's coming off. He comes off like a total criminal here. Like, everything he asks, and him saying, I didn't talk to him about what to say. He knows what to say. He knows what you want from him. And that's to make sure she doesn't fucking incriminate you. That your name does not come out of her fucking mouth. Like, everybody fucking knows that, right? I could be your attorney. I wouldn't, but any of you guys could be his attorney. Like, what would you go to say Ghislaine Maxwell on Trump's behalf if you were going there? If you were Trump's attorney, you'd go there and say, keep the president's name out your fucking mouth, right? Well, even Will Smith could represent fucking, this is what this is about. Keep the fucking president's name out of your fucking mouth, Ghislaine. If you want to fucking, not get Epstein. That's what he said, and that's totally inappropriate. Like, that would be his 100% message. Everybody fucking with half a brain knows it.
I didn't talk to him about it, but I will tell you that whatever he asked would be totally appropriate, and it's not an uncommon thing to do that. And
it's not a common thing for your personal attorney, who's now in guise of doing something for the federal government, to interview your biggest fucking, your kryptonite, your this sex scandal with Jeffrey Epstein, who you've been pals with forever, and all the incriminating information about you being inappropriate with women and young girls, and that you and Jeffrey Epstein have that in common, and that he was fucking one of the biggest sex traffickers working for the CIA and Mossad and all this other fucking bullshit, an asset, and all these people who are involved, all these seedy people. He had an island where he takes these people on a fucking jet that's called the Lolita Express, and all of your supporters want to get the truth about this. It's not uncommon for your personal attorney to go there and tell Ghislaine Maxwell, keep fucking Trump's name out of your fucking mouth, right? And so, like that's not inappropriate. It's not uncommon. Yeah, for criminals, it's not uncommon. For you, it's not uncommon. And for fucking Biden and those fucking guys who are laundering money through his fucking crackhead son, that's not uncommon. But for the rest of us, that's fucking uncommon. Like, you're supposed to be representing us. He's being paid by the American taxpayer to represent us. And we want the fucking truth about Epstein, you motherfucker. We already have the truth. He's guilty as fuck. People just don't want to see it. Like, he's telling you right now he's guilty as fuck. That's what, look, right there. This was a bubble right here. Like, those little bubbles that, like, you have one that's like that's like, in a cartoon. You have one where it's like, he's talking, so it's a straight line. But then you have one with little circles and bubbles here. Little bubbles. And that means it's what he's thinking. And what he's thinking, it would say, I'm guilty as fuck. Right here, it would say that, right? It would say that right there. He's saying this. There would be whatever he's saying out of here. And over here, there'd be a bubble that would be here for the whole thing saying I'm guilty as fuck.
Common thing to do that. And I think he probably wants to make sure that, people that should not be involved or aren't involved are not hurt by something that would be very, very unfortunate,
So he's saying people like him who are on the list, who are friends with Jeffrey Epstein, won't be hurt. Nothing about the victims. He's never once talked about the victims because he hates victims, because victims are the girls that he abused. Trump has a whole bunch of victims. He's got victims in industry. He's got victims who are vendors. He bullied and took advantage of. He's victimized people left and right. He's bullied people. He's abused them. He's abused women and young girls. And he said he could walk right up and grab them by the pussy. He doesn't give a shit about a woman he can do that to. If he thinks he can just walk up to a celebrity and grab him by the pussy, he thinks he can just go into a beauty pageant and walk in there and has permission because he's the owner to go inspect the girls who are half naked and they're teenage girls and shit. If he thinks he can just do that, they're not anything but just slaves. They're not real human beings. They're NPCs. They don't have any rights. So who does he care about? He cares about himself first and foremost, and other people like him who are going to get their names smeared. He didn't give a shit about Bill Clinton because, maybe he does because they're pals. He's part of the same club. But he's throwing Bill Clinton under the bus for the many times that he supposedly went to Epstein Island. But, Trump, he's sending his lawyer in. He said, I didn't talk to him about it, but I think he's just going in there to make sure that she doesn't say any names. He just fucking admitted. He says he's going in there. He sent his lawyer in there. I suppose he's in there talking about how, hey, don't say any names and hurt people. Not the victims. He doesn't give a shit about the victims. Let's make that fucking... No, none of these people do. And even the Trumpers who are into this, even the fucking QBs and the people in the truth community, how many people really give a shit about the victims? They want punishment for fucking Epstein and his boys. And they don't want punishment for Trump, or at least they hadn't. And they judge Trump still better than they judge Bill Clinton. Trump's the big fucking whale here. He's the fish. And his lawyer went in there first and foremost to make sure Trump did not get incriminated by Ghislaine Maxwell. Keep your fucking Trump's name out of your fucking Google mouth, your Google hole, right?
not be involved or aren't involved are not hurt by something that would be very, very unfortunate, very unfair to a lot of people. But
what about the victims, you fuck? What about the fucking victims? See, just this whole thing is just a rant admitting to everything. He's admitting to everything, and people don't want to see it. Even the mainstream media isn't covering this like, yeah, he just fucking owned it. He's owning it. He owns the fucking fact that he participated and partook with Jeffrey Epstein.
I will say this, Todd Blanche is one of the most highly respected people you'll ever meet. So I know this. I didn't discuss it with him, but anything he talked about with her or the fact that he did that, not unusual, number one, and most importantly is something that would be totally above board.
Totally above board? Who said it wasn't above board? Like, you know, you're talking about it like you've been incriminated and you're being accused of something and you're saying this is totally above board. Like, why would, like, this is what I said. This is a, you know, he's coming from a total guiltless conscience. He's got a fucking bubble over here saying, yeah, I'm guilty as fuck. That's what he's just told you. He's guilty as fuck. Totally above board? You know, why wouldn't it be above board? A fucking guy who's supposed to represent the Attorney General, the Assistant Attorney General, the legal wing of the fucking American government, that somebody's one of the best lawyers in the country that's in that position. Some of the top-notch people, prosecutors going after criminals. He's talking to a convicted criminal of the biggest sex scandal that's hit the American public, and that he'd be going in there and you have all these victims who have not been treated very well, as Trump would put it. They haven't been treated very well. I haven't been treated very well. No one treats me very well. Fucking little baby. Fucking real treated very well. They're being like fucking exploited by everybody. Now the Democrats exploiting them. Their victimization and not caring what they want, not going to say what they want, right? They already said they want all the names out. They don't want you to hire 1,000 people to go through fucking, or whatever it is, hundreds of people to go through the fucking transcripts and blot out all the names of the people that you're buddies, and especially your name. They don't want that. They want your name fucking, they know what happened. They know who did what to who because it was done to them, right? And Ghislaine knows. And so, like, he could be going in there getting the truth, but he's not. He's protecting people. You just said it. And so it's completely above board. No, it's not. Like, it's the opposite above board. It's dark fucking seedy shit where you are clearly fucking incriminated by Jeffrey Epstein and his shit because you participated, because you're a fucking creep and a piece of shit, and now you can't wipe this shit off of you. Your Teflon is fucking gone, bro. Your fucking Teflon's gone. All right, so let me show you these other things like from my video yesterday. Like it's I don't know what the timing is, but you can sort of fast forward if you just want to watch it again. But it's all the times Trump has been creepy and all the things that, show that he's incriminated himself. He's admitted to this stuff over and over again. This is the guy he is. He's telling you, he's screaming to you that he's a scumbag piece of shit and he's a fucking womanizing pedophile and he's a fucking serial cheater and a fucking grifter and a scumbag. And his fucking people won't hear it. You could play this for a Trump supporter and I could say all the things I'm saying here and they just won't hear it. Well, no, maybe he's on the list, but, he's not as bad as the other guy. No, he's the worst. Other than Ghislaine, Maxwell, and Epstein, he's probably worse than Epstein for his own stuff. But, other than her, like, he's the worst. He's the fucking worst. All right, let's put out other clips here. Okay, so I don't know what the title of this video is going to be. But my last video was entitled, Trump has always been a pro-elitist, and I misspelled elitist, and an anti-victim, and I misspelled victim. POS. But that was from Wednesday, August 5th. Today's Wednesday, August 6th. That's when that video is going up. This one, the video I'm making just now will go up. This video will go up on the 7th, just as a time frame. But I'm putting this into a compilation of all the things that were said in this video yesterday, all these other clips, and here they are. So it wasn't Larry King, it was this interview. Let me show you these clips of Trump. And this all show you that Trump is for the elite, right?
Do you think he could have gotten away with a complete mea culpa in January when he decided to cover it up? Do you think at that moment he could have said, I'm going to throw all my money on the table, the American people like me, they're going to buy this?
Well, I think he probably couldn't do any worse. I don't think he could do worse. I think his lawyers, and in particular the lawyer...
So this is talking about getting away with something, right? So Bill Clinton cheated on his wife in the White House with an 18-year-old intern, right? So this is the official story. Monica Lewinsky was an 18-year-old girl, so barely legal. And he had sex with her in the Oval Office, which is considered sacred by many people. And this is back, in the 80s or whatever it was, that this stuff wasn't okay, right? So Trump has banged a porn star. And then paid her off, and it doesn't matter. Trump has said he can grab women by the pussy, and he still got elected. Now, there was Democrats and people were outraged, but that would never have happened. Bill Clinton or anybody had said back then that celebrities could just have this privilege of walking up to women and grabbing by the pussy. They would fucking be, that would be it. They would be done. Like, there was just no tolerance for anything like that. That wouldn't even be played. Like, it was too, gross. And Trump would later come back out and say, unfortunately or fortunately, that is the case. When he was being deposed, he was in a deposition, that he believed that was, unfortunately or fortunately, that's just the way it is, right? So, but here he is, they're talking about how Bill Clinton could get out of this. Instead of saying, yeah, we have to have standards. This is just a dead deal, a done deal. Bill Clinton should be gone. Like, we should not tolerate this behavior. He has crossed a line that should forever. You don't bang an 18-year-old girl who's not your wife in the White House. Like, that's just something you don't do. Not just because of the sacredness of the presidency and the office of the presidency, because what it said to young kids and what it said about our morality, right? So, he should have just been done. But the fact that Bill Clinton was and he got away with it, Trump and everybody else watched this, just like everybody sees Trump getting away with stuff. And they're like, all right, this is what we can do. Like, we the American people aren't going to fucking hold us accountable. Let's just steal the shit. Let's, steal them fucking blind, right? If you're not going to, these guys are all criminals. And if you're not going to stand up to them, they're going to fucking bully you and take your shit. right? Because they know that you're not going to do anything about it. They're not people who have some, moral compass, right? So this is him showing that.
Won't even mention names, but representing him with respect to Paula Jones, I thought did a terrible job.
Right.
He should have never been there. He should have never gotten in there. I mean, what Bennett did in that case was, I think he just did a terrible job.
You would have settled.
Well, I would have done something certainly different than what they did. I mean, that all started it. Paula Jones is a loser, but the fact
Paula Jones is a loser, right? So Paula Jones accused Bill Clinton of rape, and for right-wing people, they all were on Paula Jones' side. I mean, there's that woman Juanita Broderick who allegedly, I don't know if it's her, but they say it's her. She's got a check mark, but she tweets for Trump on a daily basis. Like every third day, I get a Juanita Broderick fucking quote, something pro-Trump, and she's not backing down from being pro-Trump right now, and yet she was, with Paula Jones. They were together. Like she wouldn't call Paula Jones a loser. She would call her somebody that was, one of her fellow accusers of Bill Clinton. Paula Jones is a loser. Well, that's how Trump feels about women. They're there to be victimized. And they're sex slaves. That's why he liked Jeffrey Epstein, and so did Bill Clinton. This was their view. They're there to service great, powerful men. And they shouldn't fucking whine about, abuse and shit like that. Because he's pro-elite and anti-victim. Right? Paula Jones is a loser.
Different than what they did. I mean, that all started it. Paula Jones is a loser, but the fact is that she may be responsible for bringing down a president indirectly. And, that statement was a bad statement to have been made, and it's proven to be false. So,
which statement was that? I'm sorry.
There's Paula Jones in the deposition,
right,
which really started this.
But he denied it, which is if you're in a hole, stop digging.
Well,
is there a certain point where you have to just sort of walk away from the deal and say, I'm not dealing here anymore, I'm going to drop this line?
Well, I think his little speech afterward was a disaster. It wasn't the right tone, and I'm not sure he should have done it. And I'm not even sure that he shouldn't have just gone in and taken the Fifth Amendment and said, look.
So he's guilty, right? Like taking the Fifth Amendment. Like Jeffrey Epstein took the Fifth Amendment when asked if him and Trump was there when he was abusing girls. And Jeffrey Epstein took the Fifth. I got some fucking comments from Trumper when I covered this before. I showed Jeffrey Epstein saying, he took the Fifth Amendment when asked about Trump. Let me see if I can find that video next.
I don't get along with this man, Starr. He's after me. He's a Republican. He's this, he's that. And, just taking the Fifth Amendment. It's a terrible thing for a president to take the Fifth Amendment, but he probably should have done it.
Because he's guilty. So he's trying to find ways. This is like Chris Matthews is asking Trump, how would he have handled this scandal? So you've banged a girl that's 18 years old in the White House. How would you handle this scandal? And Trump's like, yeah, these guys played it all wrong. Like, this is criminal talk. It's what criminals would say, right? Like, how can we get away with it? Well, what's the best way to get away with this? We've been caught doing something wrong. How can we handle this better? I don't know, take the Fifth, this loser, or, this stuff, that victim's a loser, all these things, right? Because that's how Trump feels, right? Trump is a part of this fucking mindset, a criminal mindset. He's a part of the elite. And these people are just there to service you. And if one of your plebes, one of your pawns, one of your fucking slaves speaks out about your abuse, how do you handle it? Like, how dare they fucking do that to such a great man? Don't they know I have pussy privilege? I could just go grab by the pussy? I'm Trump. I'm Donald Trump. I'm not some fucking normal guy. That he said in that other, that, he had the right on Howard Stern. Let me show you those clips here. So this is Trump's E. Jean Carroll testimony.
Access Hollywood tape, which Trump watched during his deposition.
I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Trump has dismissed that as locker room talk. But in his deposition, he went further.
Well, historically, that's true with stars.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by the...
Well, if you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
Like, why would it be fortunate? What are you saying? What would be fortunate about that? That as a star, you could just walk up to any woman. And the majority of women, it's not true. Like, there are women who want to be around stars and celebrities. There's women who would be shocked and would be traumatized and unable to tell you what a piece of shit you are. And they would feel violated. They go into a state of shock. But that's kind of what he gets off on, right? And so, you know, just because you get away with it doesn't mean that this is a fucking privilege. Because the majority of women, they would, like, what percentage you think would be okay with Trump just walking up to him, this is back whatever, like he was on The Apprentice, and grabbing him by the pussy? Like, maybe the people who are around him, there's a higher percentage of that because they're, you know, they want the advantages of having a relationship with Trump, you know, prostituting themselves like fucking hoes. But, you know, very few, right? And so he's saying that historically, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. I don't know, you know, like that's what he's saying. And that these women who complain about it, don't you know it's the way it is, right? Don't you know that's just how it is? And so, brutal, like brutal fucking stuff. I mean, just like he's a horrible fucking person.
And you consider yourself to be a star?
I think you can say that, yeah.
So holy shit, right? Like, he didn't say, oh, yeah, that was just, like, he called it locker room talk, all these things. But he was saying, yeah, I'm just telling the truth. Like, that's just how it is. I have a star. That's my pussy privilege. I could just go up and, you know, fucking, I mean, that's what Trump was fucking saying, right? And, like, thinking that way. Because I don't know any woman, I've never experienced any woman in my life that would be okay with Trump just doing that. Right? Do you? Like, how many women do you know in your life? Maybe, like, one or two? You know, like, you have a... But even, you know, I mean, like, you can't even, like, do that shit if you're, like, at a strip club. They beat the shit out of you if you touch the strippers. I mean, if you just touch their leg and shit, they throw you out. You're not supposed to touch the strippers, like this kind of thing, right? Like, all these kind of degraded fucking places and stuff. Like, even prostitutes, if you haven't paid them. Like, I mean, you know, it would be a rare person that would be just okay with... And, you know, and you have to look at it like... grabbing you by, you know, your male genitalia. It would be okay if, like, a gay dude come up and grabbed you, like a famous gay dude, just grab, like, would Trump be okay with that, right? Or some go grabbing his sons. You know, one of these famous gay guys went up and grabbed Barron Trump's junk, right? Would Trump be okay with that, right? You know, like, it's just, and it's far less invasive. I mean, it's still uncool and gross and bad. But it's far less invasive than doing that to a woman who's more vulnerable physically and a totally different, you know, dynamic. And so, you know, this is what Trump believes.
Donald Trump loves a beauty pageant. And by his own admission, he was no stranger backstage while owning parts of 3 different pageants for nearly 2 decades.
You know, they're standing there with no clue. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
In 2001,
I sort of get away with things like that, right? I sort of? No, you do get away with it. So why?
Tasha Dixon was Miss Arizona, competing in the Miss USA pageant. She experienced this kind of awkward moment firsthand.
Our first introduction to him was when we were at the dress rehearsal and half naked changing into our bikinis.
Dixon was 18 at the time and says watching...
So 18. So Jeffrey Epstein likes him young. That's what Trump's quote was. And Trump likes them young. So if Trump likes 18 girls, then how old was Jeffrey Epstein in that 2002 quote? How old is the girls that Jeffrey Epstein likes, right?
Trump storm into a dressing room was shocking.
To have the owner come waltzing in when we're naked or half naked in a very physically vulnerable position, and then to have the pressure of the the people that work for him telling us to go fawn all over him, go walk up to him, talk to him, get his attention. Who do you complain to? He owns the pageant. So there's no one to complain to. Everyone there works for him.
In 2005, 4 years later, Donald Trump bragged to Howard Stern about what he could get away with since he owned the pageants. The conversation uncovered by CNN's K-File.
I'll go backstage before a show. Yes. And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, you know, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it.
You're like a doctor. I'm inspecting it like a doctor. You're not a fucking doctor. And so, you know, these girls don't have any rights. They don't have any choice in the matter. right? That he thinks that he can just go in there and look at them naked. Again, as a parent, if you were a parent and your daughter, like, of course, these things are all very greasy, these fucking pageants, right? But, you know, he's going in there as a predator. He's not inspecting them, right? Remember, that guy said that they make them stand on stage, even the teens. And Trump would, this guy who worked for Trump, and he was a handler of talent. And he came out and started talking about Trump being like sniffing Adderall and all these other things. I covered that guy. But he said this guy, Trump inspected the girls. And so Trump is inspecting the girls in their dressing room. Like, they're going to be in bikinis. And why do you have to inspect them? They've won their state pageants. You don't have to inspect them. Fuck you talking about? You have to inspect them, right? Like, you know, they're not inspecting shit, right? They're fucking...
I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it.
They're like
Everything is good.
Later in that same show, Trump is asked if he'd ever had sex with Miss USA or Miss Universe contestants.
Never comment on things like that. You know,
Give us the first letter of the country you had sex with.
How many letters are there?
This comes just weeks after Hillary Clinton brought up Trump's attack.
Okay, so this all was there. And they elected him anyway. Like, it was just obvious. Like, what he's thinking that as a rich, powerful man, as the owner of a pageant, and these guys like Bill Clinton, the women should just submit to them because they don't have any choice in the matter. There's no consensual type of situation. And they can just force themselves on him. And this is stuff that's said over and over about Trump. He would lord over the girls in these situations. And, you know, this is, you know, it's just his personality, right? And all these people who, you know, think that Trump, they're deluding themselves, thinking that Trump would stand up for the little guy. When Trump crushed vendors and people he had deals with, he'd break the deal, wouldn't pay his vendors. He would bully people and force himself on them. And they were lesser than him. They were just his slaves, these people without their own, you know, they're just NPCs, non-character players. Like, he thinks everyone else is an NPC. That's how narcissistic he is, right? So to think that Trump would ever stand up for victims when he's always been on the side of the victimizer and the elite, you know, people and the corporations, you know, he's always on Monsanto's side. He's always on the evil side of things. He has been his whole fucking life. And then this guy.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
That's the way he said that he socialized with Donald Trump. The first part was he said that he socialized with him. So he's taking the 5th on this situation. So, like, you know, he's saying that within the confines, if he answers that question, he would incriminate himself, right? So that's fucked, right? If you're, you know, you're being asked those questions about something like that, you're saying that if I answer that question, I'm going to incriminate myself. So he's therefore saying that yes, he did spend time with Donald Trump, with these young girls, and socialize with them, which he did. Like, he fucking did that. It's happened, right? Donald Trump was inspecting 18-year-old girls who, you know, without their permission, and maybe even younger, because he also owned the Miss Teen pageant, where it'd be 16, 17-year-old girls. And he's walking their dressing rooms. Imagine the fucking gall to walk into a female dressing room without any shame and embarrassment, and fucking feeling like, you know, like totally inappropriate about that, not feeling like icky feeling in your stomach, that he would like it. He would get off on it. I'm the owner of the pageant. I'm going to go inspect these girls. Like, you know, but fucking, and he got away with it, right? So, like, what does that tell him? Well, you can just go up and do things like that, right? Grab him by the pussy. So that's who Trump is. He is a fucking pro-elite, anti-victim person. Okay, so I found that this comment was from a while ago when I presented this thing you just saw, right? The whole Epstein thing. And the person, this was a video entitled, when Trump were perv bros, Jeffrey Epstein and Trump were perv bros. I like some of your content, but you're being a little disingenuous. When Jeffrey Epstein asked if he and Trump had ever socialized with young women, and he pleaded the fifth, he knew the question was being framed to be used against him and incriminate him with Trump. The word socialize is defined as mingling or conversating or gathering, as a completely different meaning than saying something like intercourse. You don't know what Jeffrey Epstein meant, so don't tell me I'm being disingenuous, right? I'm not saying that it necessarily meant they were having sex, right? But of course it didn't. Like, nobody was saying that. But socialize would mean that Trump was around these young girls. And so Trump wasn't, like, let's say you're 50 and 60-year-old men, whatever they were back then. Like, Trump was 50, late 40s, 50s, 60s, hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. Trump was in his 44 in 1990, so he would be 50s and early 60s. So old fucking men. Why would old men be socializing with underage girls? I mean, fucking, that in itself is incriminating. You think that Trump would be socializing with these girls with not the idea of them being sexual objects? You think Trump just liked to have conversations? Him and Jeffrey Epstein would just like to sit down and talk to 15-year-old girls and find out what their worldview is and ask them about business plans and you know, any number of topics. You ever had a conversation with a 15 or 16-year-old when you're in your 40s or 50s? You think you just randomly talk to kids that age? It was just, and why not boys then? Why just girls, right? You know, so, I mean, it's a fucking, let me read the rest of the comment here. You're being a little disingenuous. When Jeffrey Epstein was asked if he and Trump had socialized with young girls, and he pleaded the fifth, he knew that the question wasn't being framed to be used against him, incriminate him and Trump. You know, you're talking like a fucking criminal. You're saying I'm being disingenuous. If Trump was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein and young girls, then Trump knew that Jeffrey Epstein was banging young girls, right? I mean, he's at least complicit. But Trump himself was walking in on these, you know, the evidence is overwhelming against Trump. Like the denial of these motherfuckers, right? The word socialize is defined as mingling or conversing or gathering. It's a completely different meaning than saying something like intercourse. Yeah, but I mean, if you're hanging out with 14-year-old girls and Jeffrey Epstein is known for banging them, like you're just, you know, I mean, what evidence do you need that Trump, I mean, he says he could just go up and grab women by the pussy, and he hung out with Jeffrey Epstein and said that Jeffrey Epstein liked young girls, and Trump was going into Miss Teen USA and Miss USA pageant with their 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old girls half naked because he got to inspect them. And you think this guy's fucking innocent? Like, what the fuck you talking about, right? Like, it's just the level of their fucking stupidity and their denial. Everyone has socialized with underage people numerous times in their life. It does not mean that they have something disgusting or illegal with them. You mean your kids? Or through work? Like, you know, we're talking about two 50, 60-year-old men hanging out in a fucking casino, you know, one of Trump's clubs, Trump's club or whatever it was, or Jeffrey Epstein's fucking office or island or airplane with 15 or 16-year-old girls. That's like not fucking socializing with your, you know, going over your friend's house who has some kids and you say, hi, how are you? What's going on with your school? Like, it's, we're not talking about that. We're talking about Jeffrey Epstein and Trump being alone with 15, 16-year-old girls, right? Doesn't mean something disgusting or illegal with them. I'm not saying he is innocent or guilty because I really don't know. I only have my own opinions. He's fucking guilty, right? You not factually because you can't get the facts, but he's fucking guilty. Like, Trump is fucking guilty. He said he could walk up and grab women by the pussy. He said that he's attracted to his daughter. There's all these pictures of him being creepy with young women. Investigate for a crime in a court of law. Anything you can say will and can be used against you. Also, everyone's so focused on the fact that Jeffrey Epstein associates are diddlers. I tend to think that this way more complex and dark than that. Yeah, well, Trump is a part of it. Like, he is there with him. And you know he's fucking guilty. You just won't admit it, right? You're being disingenuous. Like, you're trying to fucking figure out a way he's innocent. There's no fucking excuse for any of the shit that Trump did. Like, it's just, you know, like, this is how delusional these motherfuckers are. You're thinking that I'm being disingenuous because I, you know, believe the evidence that's there in front of us. This is who Trump was. Trump and Jeffrey Epstein like women. Trump was quoted that Jeffrey Epstein liked young women. You know, Trump didn't even have to participate with, I mean, you know he did, but he didn't even have to participate. He just had to know about it. He just had to know what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, and that makes him complicit and a piece of shit, right? That he knew this guy was abusing young women. It says everything you would need to know that Trump was okay with that. Even if Trump was just okay with Jeffrey Epstein doing what he was doing, and Ghislaine Maxwell doing what she was doing. Like, he was okay with it. There's no way he wasn't aware of what they were doing and he wasn't okay with it. Because he's okay with that kind of behavior. He thinks elite people have privileges. Rich and famous, powerful people have privileges over other people. He says it all the time. Is every possible way he said it his entire life. And he thinks he can bully people and force them to bow to his will, which is another thing that he does. He's a bully, and this is how he acts. There's no fucking, this is not speculation. You have a, time full of Trump displaying this shit with people just, right in front of their fucking faces. See, this is the people that, let me show you this other comment. This is to, Trump says Epstein stole Virginia Giuffre from him. An old video Trump's admits, and I fucking misspelled admits really badly. Anyways, Paul, you sound like a hater liberal. Are you on the side with Obama? Paul? Question mark? It's a space before the question mark. You don't even fucking punctuate shit, you moron. But, this is what they're, how much do you need before you realize you're wrong and you're completely wrong and duped and everything you think and believe is a fucking lie about your belief system and what you think is, what you think are the good guys or not the good guys, and you enshrining Trump as some sort of a saint, right? When he clearly is a worthless piece of shit that fucking couldn't wait to take your money and walk on top of you and shit on you and fucking look down on you, because that's what he does. And he tells you what you want to hear, and you fucking believe it when all the evidence shows just the opposite, right? So the other thing about Trump's personality, I got one more thing to show you, 2 old clips, or older clips, but this thing was from a couple days ago. So there's this Sydney Sweeney scandal where she is in some kind of commercial for jeans. Is it American Apparel, American, something like that. It's a stupid scandal. She seems like a kind of a dope. And she says, I have good genes, Genes, and it's crossed out. And then it says jeans, Jeans. And they're saying having good genes is because she looks like a little Nazi. And, it's a bogus scandal, probably fake, being put out by the liberals to provoke the right-wing attitude about it, right? But Trump is asked first about...
Good decision.
Mr. President, what is your relationship with Laura Loomer? What kind of influence with Laura Loomer? What kind of influence does she have in the White House?
I think she's very nice. I mean, I know she's known as a radical right, but I think Laura Loomer is a very nice person. I've known her for a long time. And, personally, I think she's a patriot.
She's a horrible person. She's just gross. She's obnoxious. She's, she brings shame on the truth community by being a fake truther. She's Jewish and pro-Israel and anti-Palestinian, just fucking gross. And, right-wing, trying to be like a fucking one of those Trump truthers, but just a piece of shit. And obnoxious and gross, just fucking gross. But what is it that Trump likes about her? Well, I mean, they've been rumored to have some sort of sexual relationship, and they may or may not be true. But she loves Trump and supports him. So that's, that's the definition of why Trump likes somebody, that they like him. And this is the other piece here.
And she gets excited because of the fact that she's a patriot, and she doesn't like things going on that she thinks are bad for the country. I like her. Okay?
President, after Sydney Sweeney, it came out this weekend that she was a registered Republican. Any thoughts on that?
That who was?
Sydney Sweeney. She's like a very hot actress right now.
She's a registered Republican?
Yes.
Oh, now I love her ad. Is that right? Is Sydney Sweeney? You'd be surprised at how many people are Republicans. That's what I wouldn't have known, but I'm glad you told me that. If Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, I think her ad is fantastic. Okay.
No, it's a fake scandal. American Apparel probably made that scandal happen because it's bringing so much attention to them. It's promoting that they're like, I mean, who's thinking about American Apparel jeans or whatever it is, right? But now they got national attention. So I think it's a fucking bullshit scandal. But let's say it wasn't. Let's say that there's some sense that there was some Nazi fucking hidden symbolism there. Trump wouldn't give a shit about any of that. All he cares about is, and he doesn't care about what the company is or stands for, is that Sidney Sweeney's a registered Republican and therefore liked Trump and voted for Trump. So that's another part of Trump, right? Like it's all about him and his people and the people that like him. Like, so, that kind of narcissism that you only like the people who like you. You only like the people who have, or not just like, but support or believe that they're good people. Like everyone who doesn't like you should just die or be locked up or whatever. They're just not, the only people that matter are the ones that like you, right? I mean, even if someone's neutral, but if they like him, holy shit, right? And he surrounds himself with those people who won't tell him the truth about his disastrous policies, and you can't run a government or anything like that, and anybody who likes Trump or butters him up, Trump will give them whatever they want. One more thing here, one more clip here, but just to finish up what I was saying there. See, to be a functioning person, to be a person on your spiritual journey, you have to question your own bullshit, right? You have to want to improve, and you need to have a way of receiving information to correct wrong thinking, wrong behaviors, accepting things that you're doing that are bad. Like you have to, there's people who sleep on a bed of nails, or people who, like that character Simon, I think his name was in Dan Brown movie, the whatever it was, the Mona Lisa movie, right? His original big book that came out, whatever that was called. I'll remember it in a second. The Da Vinci Code. And so there's that guy who whipped himself, self-flagellating. There's this element in spirituality where people think of themselves as a sinner. And it's not appropriate. But you can think of yourself as a potential demon. You have a part of you that wants to go full demon and go against the will of God and hijack your soul's purpose. And then you have your soul. It's like the saint, people have the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. And when you're making decisions, you realize that you have like some conscience that's telling you not to do something. You see this in pretty much every movie, every TV show. You see where people have a crisis of conscience, where they're about to make a decision about, what direction to take their life. And, they're battling with some demons or battling with whatever it is. And they're like, they, and we all do that. Like we all have to, we know what the right thing to do is. And it can be just like, all right, making good choices about food, like McDonald's food and things like this. Like we know things are bad for us. We know things are like fucking bring out the worst in us. We can hang out with good people. It's a difference of going to church or going to a strip club, or, not that I, endorse church. I talk about what organized religion is. So, maybe the strip club is a little bit more honest, but both are bad, in their way. But if you go to a good church where there's a good pastor and there's good energy, it's something different, right? There's no good strip clubs, right? There's no strip clubs that have a good energy. There's no porns that have, loving energy, right? It's all degraded, low vibrational shit. But religions themselves can do more damage and drive people to those things by not providing an accurate description of your relationship with God. Then there's wanting, when you have a relationship with God, then you have, you're aware of your bullshit. You're aware of your negative tendencies. You're aware when you're doing something wrong. You have a conscience. You have morals. You have ethics. When you have an internal relationship with God, when you're meditating, and your bullshit is in front of you, you're like, yeah, I lied about that, or it's, this is not a good view. This is not good qualities that I have, and you have to be able to change. So Trump is the opposite of that, where he's only having yes people and people are going to tell him how great he is, and when he gets negative feedback, he fires people and he dismisses it and denies it, right? When he gets faced with the truth. And you can't be a good person or a good leader when that's the case. And so ultimately you become a demon, and that's what Trump is. Like, he's an ego run completely amok, and he's not connected to God in any real way, only doing work, as a demon in the role, a divine role that is, a demon that brings down America and, the world or whatever, of a demonic system. A demon who's so selfish that he brings down a demonic system, which is, a net positive, right? But still, he's not doing it purposefully.
If you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these, would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole...
You don't want to affect people's lives, not the victims. You don't want to affect people who are like Trump, who hung out with Jeffrey Epstein. There's a lot of funny stuff, and now it's calling it an out-and-out hoax that was created for the Democrats to go after him. Like, that's his view on it now, which nobody fucking agrees with him. Like, even his polling, like, Jesus Christ, that's what you're going with? And so, this was Trump's always his opinion of it. He knew his name was in it, and he knew his people, his peers, or people's name was in it. All these associates, and Jeffrey Epstein associated with so many different people. If all the names came out, you were like, oh man, like that's like a third of the famous people, right? A third of the famous people, really famous people, Jeffrey Epstein hung out with. And people from every walk of life that had influence, moneyed people, bankers, financial people, politicians, celebrities, just across the board. And so that's why they keep on saying, just because you're on the list doesn't mean you're guilty, but you're guilty of something. You're guilty of bad fucking decision making, right?
World. But I think I...
Go back a little bit here.
You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least...
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others.
So, that was that, right? We saw this.